good evening and welcome to this webinar session. My name is Sujit Menon from Greenworld, and I would be the host for this evening on the topic for how do you crack your NEBOSH IGC examination. The speaker for this evening is none other than Mr. Hormuz Siodia, who's also joined us in the session. Thank you once again for joining us. We can see that learners are just about tuning in. However, we should make sure that we start on time. And having said that, I'll now give the session to Hormuz. All yours, Hormuz. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. And good evening and welcome to everyone for this webinar. And I'll just start sharing my screen. Once again, good evening to all who have come from all over the world, and welcome to Greenworld Group for the webinar. How to crack the NEBOSH Open Book IGC Open Book examination. So I just want to discuss the strategy, how to approach the examination, what are the points to get through this NEBOSH IGC examination, how understand the scenario, the style of the questions. So that's the whole theme of today's webinar. So moving along, what is the outcome of the webinar? So the outcome of the webinar is understanding a past NEBOSH IGC OB scenario. So I'll take up one of the past NEBOSH IGC OB scenario 1 question paper, and then we'll first understand the general style of the questions also within the IG1 open book examination. Also, we'll see how to systematically extract the information from the scenario. Also, we'll see how to combine the extracted information and the knowledge of the subject matter to formulate the answers. And finally, I'll show you how to present the answers in a neat professional format to the examiner. So this is the webinar outcome. This is what we will be going through today in this webinar. Moving ahead. So I'll take up for this evening, I'll be taking up the scenario from 2nd of December 2020, the NEBOSH IGC open book examination. This was the third open book examination ever since NEBOSH transitioned to the OB style of examination in IGC. So, because the first page is all the guidance, normally it's the guidance which all the tutors have discussed with you. But still, I'll just like to go to the last paragraph. It states the marks are available, are shown in brackets to the right of each question or part of each question. So, when you do get a question as such, many candidates don't even tend to focus on the marks. They just see the question and go ahead and straight to attempt it. But of course, the marks is also there to guide you as to how many points I need to put in. So this will help guide you to the amount of information which is required in your response. So in general, 1 mark is given for each correct technical point that is clearly demonstrated. So every single point that you're putting in or writing in, you're going to get 1 mark. There is no negative marking at NEBOSH. So even if your answer doesn't seem to be correct, or it doesn't match to the expectation of the examiner, or it's not fully correct as such, still there is no marks going to be deducted. So the marks only given for each correct technical point that is clearly demonstrated. And what NEBOSH states is that avoid writing too little, as this will make it difficult for the examiner to award marks. So you don't have to write just small words or single word answers or short lists, because it's unlikely for you to gain any kind of marks. And it will not normally be enough to show some sort of an understanding or some sort of a connection with the scenario. Now, coming to the word count, when candidates start writing the answers, and then once they formulate the answers, and then they find that they have exceeded the word count significantly. So we'll be discussing on the word count also maybe at the end, once I discuss the answers and questions as such. But yes, of course, the recommended word count, what NEBOSH is, it recommends you to write within 3,000 words in total. But also they have given an allowance of about 10%, and you can, so 10% of 3,000 words will be 300 words. So your overall word count limit should be around 3,300 words. But even if you go up a little bit higher than that, it's fine. There is no penalty as such. NEBOSH is not going to cut marks, or the exam's not going to cut marks as such. But they want your answers to show crisp, clear understanding, not to digress into areas which is not going to fetch you any marks as such, and wasting your time and wasting your efforts into these areas. And NEBOSH states that try to distribute your time and word count proportionately across all the tasks. So do balance your time. If you have large questions of 20, 25 marks, you're going to take more time to extract the information, apply the subject matter, formulate your answers, polish the answers, and then present them. So definitely time is going to go for larger mark questions as such. And of course, use the recommended template. NEBOSH is providing the template. It's a wonderful template. So please do use that template. There's no need of using a blank word form and then, struggling with the word count as such. And lastly, coming to attempt all the tasks. So don't leave any kind of questions blank. Try and fill up all the, attempt all the questions as far as possible. Very well. Just going ahead. I'm just moving down a little bit. And I'll start up with this scenario, which is the December 2020 scenario. I'm just going to make the screen a little bit better so it fits into the width as such. Just bear with me, James. Very well. Okay, so I'll start reading the scenario first. Let's when you get the question paper is going to be in a PDF format. So first read, don't jump to the questions or see what questions NEBOSH is given. First, come and see what is the scenario. Understand the scenario first. Go through the reading of the scenario several times. Take a break, come back, read again, take a break, come back. So it takes frequent breaks because it's a lot of information you're taking in and you need to process this information clearly as such. So starting up, scenario. Over the recent months, large numbers of people in almost every country in the world have been affected by the spread of a virus. Now, this scenario came about in December 2020 when there was, of course, lockdown everywhere and people were at home. So candidates understood that it was more for the COVID as such. And the situation had been categorized as a global pandemic and has led to national emergencies with lockdowns as such. Scientists discover more and more every day about how the virus works. However, the current understanding is that this virus is very easily transmitted through physical contact between people and with contaminated surfaces, and breathing in respiratory droplets, mainly from coughing and sneezing, but also from normal talking. So NEBOSH normally first gives you some sort of an introduction, sometimes in the scenarios they give an introduction to the organization or to the situation as such. So NEBOSH is open this scenario with an introduction to what it is as such. And then in most cases, it's stated the virus leads to a mild illness in the young, fit and healthy, but can cause severe illness and even death to others as such. So it is telling about what is the severity, what is the outcome if you contact the virus as such. Now, official guidance on how to control the virus is also subject to change as the science evolves. The exact details can depend on which country you are in and even which part of the country as such. But at the current time, in your location, the primary control measures that are recommended against the spread of the virus are keeping a physical distance between people, called social distancing, general hygiene measures, which is frequent hand washing or hand sanitizing, and regular cleaning and decontamination of surfaces. Further, wearing face masks that cover the mouth and nose is also recommended in some circumstances as an additional control measure. So reading the two paragraphs, you have immediately got an understanding that the hazard is the virus, which has the potential to cause you harm if you contract it. And you know what is the outcome, what is the severity from that hazard. And the control measures in order to prevent contact or with the hazard as such have been given out by the official authorities, the authorities as such. So they've given out official guidance as such. Now, NEBOSH always in our open book examination, they put you as a part of the scenario, right? So you're made a part of the scenario and you're given some sort of a designation as such. So here it is stated that you are the health and safety advisor for a medium-sized insurance company that has certification to an internationally recognized occupational health and safety management system standard, something which over the years has made the organization more efficient and attracted some important clients. So they have given a designation being the health and safety advisor for a medium-sized insurance company. So you know the organization. It's like an office. It's an insurance company. So you're going to have people who are going to deal with the clients, visitors as such. And this organization has certification to a internationally recognized occupational health and safety management system. That means there's a formal and there's a certified management system existing within this organization. And within the brackets, NEBOSH has stated that something which over the years, So that means the system has been running over the years in the organization, and it has made the organization more efficient. Meaning, NEBOSH is saying that he's giving you little hints that what is like the benefits that have come about of having this occupational health and safety management system standard in the organization, and how it has helped the business. So it has helped the business in attracting important corporate clients as such. So NEBOSH has given you like two little benefits of having this health and safety management system. Now they have described the workplace that you normally work in an office building, but in order to control the spread of the virus through physical contact and protect people, you and all other office workers are following current government instructions to work from home. So now it's described the workplace, it's a building, but because this pandemic is there, because of the spread of the virus as such, and you want to protect people from contracting the virus, right? You all are following the government instructions to work from home. So now the scenario is like move to working from home as such, though the main workplace is a office as such. Then in addition, it is anticipated that being away from the busy office environment will reduce work-related incidents, that is near misses, accidents, ill health and property damage, and any possible investigations like enforcement action and civil claims that would have arisen as such. So now when people are not going to be in the office, when they're not in this busy office environment, so there's not going to be any kind of near misses. The office is empty, everybody's working from home. There are not going to be any kind of accidents like people slipping and tripping on the staircases on the office as such from any obstructions. Ill health won't be there because you won't be contracting the virus, because now you're not having any contact with visitors, clients, and of course there also won't be any kind of property damage happening in the. So that way you can see that the work-related incidents, everything is going down. So it is showing some sort of, it can relate to a temporary jump in your health and safety performance as such, right? Because all of these things are going down as such. And also because people are not in the office, there's no accidents, there's no incidents, so there won't be any kind of possible investigations or reactive monitoring methods like reactive monitoring or any kind of enforcement actions because you're not complying with the law or you're not complying with the legislation. And similarly, none of the civil claims that would have arisen, like people getting injured and claiming from the management about money that the health and safety was not managed in the workplace. So it's given you a brief overview of what is there what is a scenario. It's opened a scenario with the organization. What is the current situation as such? So you can see like NEBOSH arranges the whole scenario into paragraph, and each paragraph is giving you some sort of information as such. Then you have written, next you're going ahead and you have written, now you're the health and safety advisor. So you have written a procedure and guidance on best practice for home working. Now, as you read the scenario, first time you are just absorbing the information. Then the second time, the third time as you're reading. So as you read as such, you'll be able to process the information that now you've written a procedure. So procedure would relate to something like a safe system of work and guidance on best practice. For what? For home working. That means people are now all working from home. All the workers are working from home. So immediately in the mind, as you read and all, you should think that, well, it's home working. People are at home. That means they're away from the workplace. That means they're working remotely and they're away from the colleagues as such. So that means it's something related to home working can relate to like lone working. So sometimes it's essential as you read the scenario, think try to see can you read between the lines? It may not come in the first attempt, but it may come on the second reading, third reading. You are able to understand this information. Like what can be the hidden meaning between the lines as such. So you as a health and safety advisor, and you have written some procedures, some guidance on best practice for home working, including workstation setup in a home working environment. Now, the employer, that the employer has a responsibility to have a safe workplace, to offer a safe workplace. Within the safe workplace, he has to give safe tools, safe equipment. But to operate that safe tools and equipment, he also has to have safe systems of work as such. But now people are not in that workplace. Now, because of the situation, they have moved to the home. Many people say that, well, if you move home, the employer doesn't have a responsibility of care. No, it does have. Why? Because the work is happening remotely. So even though you are at home, employer bears the moral responsibility and the legal responsibility to look after your health and safety. So that is where you are being a health and safety advisor. You are writing this procedure, you are writing this guidance on how to work safely at home in your setup as such, including workstation setup in a home working environment. Now, what's going to happen? You have to think gradually that people are going to work at home. Like I'm presenting from home as such. Now, when I'm working from home for 8 hours, 9 hours, I may not have the same kind of ergonomics that the office provides, like a same kind of office chair, the same a good workstation, a desk as such. So people are going to be sitting on the sofa or a chair or a stool or a small table, or putting the laptop on the and what's going to happen? They are doing office work. They are working for the employer. But as they are working for the employer, they are also getting affected. So it can result in musculoskeletal disorders as such. So this is why you are writing the procedure. So you see, from each line, calmly and coolly, you have to think that what can be, why am I writing the procedure? What is the reason? Even though people at home, what is the reason for me to write a procedure on behalf of my employer and distribute it to the people? So then the next line states that this guidance has been distributed to all the workers. So you have written a procedure on how to work, a best practice on how home working, right? So, and this guidance, you as a health and safety advisor on behalf of the organization, you have distributed to all the workers. Now, when you distribute to all the workers, you're going to think that, well, in the pandemic, how am I going to distribute it? I'm going to distribute this through email. That's the only way to distribute it. So you're making use of communication. And what we learned in element number 3, communication. What kind of communication? It's written communication. So it's procedures and guidance, which is written communication. It is being distributed over the email. So you're making use of some sort of media, electronic media, to disseminate or spread out your written communication. So you see how from each line, I'm analyzing the information, extracting the information, and getting the more clear picture, deeper picture of the scenario. Then the organization is making widespread use of technology to enable remote home working. So now to enable this remote home working, the only way is to make use of technology, including video conferencing facilities for business meetings and for client contacts as such. So you're making use of this technology. So not only are you enabling remote home working, but also you're making use of the technology in order to sustain your business, in order to continue your business, have your business meetings, keep up with the clients, and further your business as such. Moving ahead to the next paragraph, the organization is also concerned about the workers' mental well-being during this new way of working. Now, when we talk about health and safety as such, when you look into the standard, the ISO 45001 standard, what is a part of the syllabus, when you read the standard as such, the standard on which the management system has been built, your organization's management system is built, it states that you as an organization or as an employer, you not only have to look after your employees' physical well-being, but you also have to focus on the employees' mental well-being. Means mental health is also equally important. It's not just physical health that we are focused in health and safety. We're also focused on mental health or mental well-being as such. So now, so that shows that if it's stated that the organization is concerned about the workers' mental well-being, means they're showing they're showing a duty of care. They're concerned about it, that they don't want the people working remotely as such to be affected mentally. They don't want the mental health to be affected by, because indirectly it's going to affect the productivity as such. So definitely, if you look after one aspect, automatically the work productivity aspect will also be taken into, it will get improved. Then the management team have therefore asked each department to schedule short 30-minute computer-based team meetings, at least on a weekly basis. Right. So now, what are the ways in which they are looking after the mental well-being? So they have asked each department to schedule short computer-based team meetings on a weekly basis. So what does that indicate? So that indicates something to do with consultation, communication also, and consultation. Both, you are communicating the manager. So each department will schedule it to the workers, means managers and the workers. And definitely there are going to be several people there. So it's going to be some form of, we can say, some sort of an indirect consultation, right? Through and communication through electronic media as such. Now the intention, why is the management doing this? So the intention is to help the workers maintain social contact with the colleagues. So that's the first part, the social aspect. That if you want to have people's well-being, you want to improve the well-being, they want to be in touch with the colleagues. Hey, how are you? We were working in the office, now we're at home. How are you keeping? How are you managing? So at least that social contact. So that improves the mental well-being. So that means the organization is looking after the well-being of the workers. So it's looking after one aspect in health and safety. But also, this team-based meetings is also a forum to raise concerns. So it is also a way to the workers and the managers, there's some sort of a two-way dialogue or two-way communications for consultation. So workers can raise their concerns that I'm working for, example, I'm working for 8 hours a day and I have this back problem, I'm getting the neck problem, or it's not feasible for me to use the laptop, I don't have a proper chair or something like that. So you can raise some sort of concerns as such. Alternatively, one-to-one meetings can be arranged for those reluctant to discuss things during team meetings. Now, it may happen that during the team meetings as such, you may not want, some workers may not want to discuss or bring up all the issues, personal issues, house issues, family issues as such, that's interfering with the work during the team meetings. So even the organization has thought about, I can even arrange for a one-to-one meeting between who was the manager, supervisor, and the worker, right? So even those things can be discussed. So you can see how the organization, in this one paragraph, is how it is showing its duty of care in health and safety, towards its workers as such. So it's showing, you can say, some sort of a moral responsibility also, in a sense. Then 6 months. Now, with each paragraph, you see the theme changes, the points change as such. So 6 months later, I'm just going to scroll up a little bit. So 6 months later, when the government has the virus outbreak under much more control, so the government advice changes, right, and allowing people to return to the offices, provided they implement a range of additional control measures to limit virus transmission. So now the scenarios moved 6 months later, right? So it's a little fast forward as such. And the government is allowed now the virus under control and people can come back to office, but unless the employer implements a range of control measures to limit the virus transmission, put into place certain additional controls, right? Control the hazard, which is the virus and its transmission, and go ahead and start the office work. So the managing director calls the facilities manager, the human resources manager, and you to a meeting to plan for a possible return to the office. Now, when it's stated here to call for you're called for a meeting as such, so the office work hasn't started. So it's still a virtual meeting, right? That you're planning for a possible return to the office. So you're still using media like a video conferencing as such, and you and the senior management are come together for discussing what we can do, what sort of control measures we can put into place so that there is a safe return back to the office as such. Plus, also meeting legal compliance, that whatever the government directives are there, we are meeting those directives, so we make legal compliance and we keep our workers safe. So both things are being accomplished, or both things will be a balanced and met. So before the meeting, the managing director asks you and the facilities manager to carry out a specific virus risk assessment. So when you have a hazard as such, definitely you're going to have a corresponding risk assessment, because now you're having a certified health and safety management system. So because you're having a certified health and safety management system, so whatever hazards, that significant hazards or whatever hazards are affecting the organization of the workers, you have to do a risk assessment. So it's a requirement of a occupational health and safety management system. And when you're doing this, it's stated that you do a specific virus risk assessment, but you have to do it with what? Input from the workers. That means, so when it's stated input from the means, workers' input is required. That means you're involving your workers. That means there is active participation. You're calling, the management is saying that, look, when you make this, have active participation of the workers in the making of the risk assessment. And then once you have input from the workers as such, what is the risk assessment going to be? You can term it as suitable and sufficient. Remember when we did element 3, how would you term a risk assessment suitable and sufficient? It's unless you do a team-based risk assessment and you have input from the workers' representatives. Going ahead, to help develop workable measures, you also visit an organization that is at a more advanced stage of implementing virus management measures as such. So now, for making this risk assessment, right, you need additional control measures. Now, to determine these additional control measures, you have the government guidance. But apart from government guidance, what you're doing, because you want to improve, at the end of the day, you want to improve the health and safety performance. You want to see what is the industry best practices also, and you want to implement them in your organization. So you are visiting another organization. So you are seeing what are their best practices as such. Then you are also researching the latest government guidance on making the workplaces like yours secure against the virus. So you are seeing what is the new guidance that is coming out, maybe every week or something as such. So you're getting these are all the inputs, external information which you're gathering in order to make your risk assessment suitable and sufficient. Means you're consulting what? You're consulting external sources of information, basically. So like you're seeing what is the other industries doing, what are the other workplaces doing, and you're also seeing what is the government guided. So you're using, it shows that when you're making the risk assessment, you're using external sources of information. Also, you're involving the workers because they're at home also. They're also listening to what is there on the news, what's there on the internet as such. So you're taking their input also, because they also eventually they are going to come back to the workplace as such. Going to the next paragraph. At the meeting, you and the facilities manager present the findings of a risk assessment, site visit and research. So now the risk assessment has been made, and now you're presenting it to the management. So this is our risk assessment. This is the findings from the site visit as to how others are managing what virus management measures they are having. And you're presenting your research from the internet as such as to what is the government advice, what do we need to comply with in order to have safe working in the office as such. So then you decide that the significant findings of the risk assessment will be shared with all the workers through team meetings before the office return, and a copy of the signed risk assessment will be placed on all health and safety notice boards in the office. So when you have a long sentence like this, like Nebosh just put and break it up as such. So you decide that significant findings of the risk assessment will be shared with all workers. So that's one thing. So you make the risk assessment, now you're sharing the findings. Similar like when you did the IG2 as such, what is it asked in the part for? That with whom are you sharing the findings? So you're sharing the findings with the workers. Workers gave you input for the risk assessment. Now you made the risk assessment, you're sharing your findings back with them. Right? And how are you sharing it? You're sharing it through team meetings. And office return has not started. So means you are a team using some sort of electronic media like video conference. You can sharing those meetings or maybe by email as such, right? Before the office return. And what have you planned? And a copy of the signed risk assessment will be placed. So sometimes understanding those little words, will be placed, means it is an intention that when we come back to the office, when we go return back, this risk assessment, which will be signed by whoever's done the risk assessment or the management who's approved as such, it's going to be placed on all health and safety notice boards in the office. So shows, so when you read health and safety notice boards means it's showing you that your organization is making active use of like media as such, like some sort of media for promulgating health and safety information, for creating more awareness to the people as such. Next, the organization will extend the cleaning company contract. So the minute you read the word cleaning company contract means immediately in the mind it has to come, oh, contract means contractors. So it's something related to element 1.3, that managing contractors. So for your cleaning, for the organization's office cleaning, you have contractors, and you extended the contract, and it will extend. See the word again, will. So will is being like used several times. Means there's some sort of an intention, there's some sort of a planning that we will do this as such, right? So the organization will extend the cleaning company contract to include more frequent and extensive cleaning of the office. So that means the management is like, you can read between the lines that there's contractors, and though the contractors are going to be in the workplace, so there's also going to be a duty of care towards the contractors in the workplace. That means management has a duty of care towards the contractors, but also it is employing the contractors and making sure that there will be frequent and effective, extensive cleaning of the office. So it shows that the organization is planning to take a lot of proactive steps as such. Next, an email including detailed step-by-step approach to thoroughly washing hands and other hygiene procedures will be sent to all the workers as such. So now you as a health and safety advisor, right, you have decided that you will create some sort of like procedures, like making detailed step-by-step washing hands procedure or hygiene procedures, and it's going to be sent to all workers before you even come to the office. At least you are made aware. So it's like showing, it's like the scenario is telling you what sort of steps is the management going to take in order to make the workplace safe as such. Then this will be supplemented by posters. So the minute you read the word posters, so something has to come well, it's going to be some sort of communication. And what sort of communication? Graphical communication, because we learned that communication is of three methods, that you have verbal communication, you have written communication, and you have graphical communication as such. So this will be supplemented by posters, which will be in all the washrooms. So that means management, along with, when you read this thing, that it's going to be supplemented by posters, Now, to print these posters, to buy these posters means what? Management is also showing its intentions or commitment that yes, we'll put in the resources, right, to buy these posters and ensure that all the washrooms are having this sort of posters as such. Then new hand sanitizing procedures will be written and they will be relayed during remote computer team meetings and made available for reference on the company intranet. So now are other things, that is not only what sort of media you're having in the organization for promulgating health and safety information. We are not only having the notice board, which you could find, you're also having the intranet as such, you're also having the email, plus you're having video conferencing. So you can see all this media, electronic media, one is most electronic and one is like hard copy, like physical, you can say like a notice board as such. So the organization is making active use of all these kind of things, right, for promulgating or creating awareness, spreading this health and safety information and making the workers aware as such. Next, you will develop work instructions on social distancing measures. So subtle instructions you are making and for social distancing measures as such. You will write a procedure for wearing personal protective equipment at work, especially when working in enclosed rooms. So you're writing all these procedures means what? Safe methods of working, safe systems of work means you're developing a safe system of work. Eventually, when the people come to the office, they should have a safe system of work, a safe way of working. Now with this pandemic, like now returning to the office, so you're developing all this, and you are doing it because why? You are the health and safety advisor, right? So it is a part of your role and responsibility, which is being defined, or it must be set in the organization section in the policy as such. And then it's stated that you will post additional social distancing measures to manage the transmission risk on the company intranet. So you're making so much use of this electronic media, such like intranet and everything, to post all this sort of information as such. The human resource, going to the next paragraph, the human resources manager will also update the first aid policy, the fire evacuation arrangements, and other emergency procedures. So you're updating all of these things, right? So now when situations have changed, so these are all the parts of the policy, like the first aid policy, the evacuation arrangements, emergency procedures. So all these arrangements within the arrangement section of the policy, these all have to be updated. Right, so we learned that that the policy has to be reviewed once in a year, annually as such. Normally it's annually, but there are also other factors or other circumstances that may cause you to review the policy prior to the planned review date as such. Right, so these are the things that NEBOSH is showing you that this policy is going to be a first aid policy will be updated, fire evacuation arrangements will be updated, and emergency procedures. Now that you have taken into account COVID, like somebody gets infected, so of course emergency procedures have to be updated as such. Then you're indicating that the reporting requirements for any virus-related ill health cases to the government authorities. So now there's legal compliance. So you indicate that the reporting requirements that I need to report to the government for any virus-related ill health cases to the government authorities, and these will need to be introduced and communicated to those implementing them. So you're also thinking, on one aspect, you're thinking how I can work safely in the office. On the other aspect, you're thinking, okay, how can I update the policy as such? The third aspect, what is NEBOSH is like showing you, that you're also thinking that how to maintain legal compliance with the authorities as such by reporting. Then you and the facilities manager, you volunteer to carry out a detailed analysis and the corresponding update of the health and safety management system. So now you have a management system as such. So many changes, working practices have changed as such, right? You're coming back to the same workplace, but because of all these factors, because of all these circumstances, you are now going to do a update of the health and safety management system. You're going to analyze what all sections need to be reviewed as such, and then you'll accordingly update the management system. Going to the next paragraph, all those at the meeting, they agree that the implementation of all these modified procedures based on the risk assessment. Now, the risk assessment which you have made will detail all the additional control measures, right? So when you have these additional control measures, it means you have to do this within a particular timeline as such. So now you have to implement all these modified procedures, and they are going to be also part of your policy, whatever the controls are as such. And these things, right, they will need acknowledgement, they will need understanding, and they will need application by all the workers, because now everybody has to follow them, right? Once it's become a part of your policy as such, once the risk assessment is approved, all these controls which are going to be like utilized or which are going to come into effect on a day-to-day basis, who's going to finally who's going to be affected at the level as such? All the workers in the office. Now, when you have to implement, implement these measures, you need some, like it's stating, there will be an emphasis on training. So it's like subtly, like NEBOSH stated that, look, you have these controls are going to be part of your policy. And because it's part of your policy means it's a safe method of working, a safe system of work is being updated or created, a new system, a new way of working in the office. But once you've created the safe system of work, I also need to implement it. I need to put it into action. So before I put it into action, what do I need to do? I need to give people information. I need to give them instructions. And I also need to give them training as such. So there has to be some sort of emphasis on training with associated presentations, device, and workshops. So you have to have some sort of workshops. You have to train them. You can't bring the people into the office and then will train. At least first give them the information that what is the new procedures. Right, so you have to disseminate, you have to spread this information, make them aware as such that when you come to the office, this is how it's going to be, this is the social distancing, this is the, all these kind of things. So you're giving this sort of information. Why? For successful implementation of the safe system for return back to office. Then there will be an expectation. Of course, there's an expectation that supervisors and managers effectively implement and actively monitor the new arrangements. Now there are new arrangements. Now what are the new arrangements that you have? They have to be effectively implemented also. And once it is implementation, means once it is live, once it is working as such, this has to be monitored also. So both things, implementation and monitoring, both have to be happening. And these have to happen through how? Through schedules, behavioral safety observations, and safety tools. Means now people's behavior is going to change. Like people are going to hand sanitize, people are going to maintain social distancing, people are going to follow good hygiene measures. So what is happening actually? People's behavior is now being changed. And because people's behavior is changing, what we are so used to before the pandemic, now it's a different way of life, different way of working. So now how to monitor that? How to implement and monitor, how to see that people are actually following it. So the only way to see it is through behavioral safety observations. And when you read the schedule, means something that is happening on a regular basis, it's scheduled. And behavioral safety observations means something that you're doing on a active monitoring basis, means something on a proactive basis. So NEBOSH has given you two active monitoring methods. One is safety inspections, which consists of scheduled behavioral safety observations, and the other is safety tools, and which we know the safety tool is, it's an unplanned, but it's a routine inspection of a workplace by a senior manager, and he takes around with him maybe the supervisors or workers, right? But what objective? To observe the workers' behavior, to observe the workplace conditions, to see what are the issues. Also shows the management's commitment. Also shows you can have some sort of consultation with the workers, and take certain steps to correct whatever is not right in the workplace as such. Going ahead, the human resources manager, he naturally links this with an updated disciplinary procedure. Now, when you have working procedure, but people's behavior, it's more related to behavior because behavior has to change, right? The new working procedure. Some people will follow, some people will resist, some people might forget, different things. So you need to also have to, for the enforcement, right? For the enforcement of the safe systems of work, you need to have a discipline procedure, and that has to be updated. Why? Because now new working practice has been introduced. So new working practices, so new updated discipline procedure. So both are going hand in hand as such. You respond to this by suggesting that significant changes at the organization will require time for the workers to adapt, right? So now when you have to change behavior, right? When behavioral things have to change, your behavior, workers' behavior, people need time to adapt to it. We were not used to the pandemic. We were not used to wearing masks. We were not used to sanitizing every now and then. But these things take time for the people to adopt as such. And you are stating that there will need to be an acceptance that the new way of working will take some time to change behavior. Yes, of course. Though you have the procedures, though you have given information, though you have posters, though you have instruction on the internet, though you have done team-based meetings, right? But all of this takes time to embed into our behavior. And finally, it has to become embedded in the culture, means the way of working of this office, the way of working of this organization. So all of this takes time. It's a slow, gradual process. Now this applies. Now generally, what is being said is this applies especially, like NEBOSH, especially to young workers. So when you read the word young workers, immediately the mind has to come, oh, I've heard the word young. Young means something like vulnerable workers, right? They are the young workers as per the UK law is like someone between the ages of 15 to 18. Right? They might be just like, like fresh from college as such, doing the apprenticeship as such. So they're young workers and who may be far less directly affected by the virus as such, right? So though they are vulnerable at one sense, vulnerable in the workplace as such, right? But they may not follow the instructions as such, but they are also, on the other hand, the virus has not affected the young people, right? Within the age group of 15 to 18 as such. So you also mentioned the need for revised policies for visitors and the control for the contractor. So now, along with looking after your workers, NEBOSH is stating that the organization is also keeping into mind that revising the policies for visitors. Why? Because once you open the office, you are a medium-sized insurance company. So who's going to come to your office? Visitors. It can be your past clients, it can be your current customers, it can be potential new customers who are coming to see, well, can I have insurance for COVID as such? Like what is, so you'll have more visitors coming in because now the office is opened up. And also you need to control your contractors, which the contractors are already mentioned in this scenario, because you as an employer or every employee, they have a duty of care towards the contractors, right? So when they come to your site, when they're working in your site, you also have a duty of care towards the third party, the contractors as such. So you're updating all of these policies. Then the managing director suggests that you and the facilities manager update these policies before the next meeting. So he's saying, well, we have discussed all of this in this meeting, right? We have agreed on that. And now we will update these policies before the next meeting as such. Going to the next paragraph, the organization is facing greatly reduced income caused by the impact of the pandemic on the economy. So definitely business is now down. It was not as before, like when you open the office, people could just walk in as such. Now people may be reluctant to communicate with you or, as such. So definitely the business has gone, the financial aspect has been affected as such. Now the planned virus control measures will involve significant additional cost, initial and ongoing. So definitely now you have to buy posters, you have to do social distancing, safety signs, you have to invest into PPE, you invest into hand sanitizing, a lot of things. Plus you have to extend the contract to the contractors. So many things have to be. So all of this is going to cost money, right? So there is going to be an initial cost also and an ongoing cost, like every now and then refilling the hand sanitizers and providing new masks, because you as an employer, you have to provide PPE to the workers. That means it's going to be additional cost. Every now and then I have to provide them gloves. Every now and then I have to provide the workers with fresh masks when they come to the office. So it's all going to cost the organization money, right? So all these measures will involve significant additional cost, initial cost and the ongoing cost to the organization if you are going to fully implement them. So the managing director is therefore exploring areas where savings can be made. So every organization, they're looking not only at health and safety, but they also want to see how we can sustain the business, right? Financially sustain the business also, be profitable also on the other hand. So it is almost time now to renew the Occupational Health and Safety Management System certification. And although the organization is rightly proud of it, that yes, we have Health and Safety Management System certification, the managing director, the senior most person, sees discontinuing the certification as one way to make a saving. So he sees that, well, this is something which is taking away, is incurring a lot of cost as such, the certification. So let's try and discontinue it, right? So at least we can get some sort of savings from that. So the largest, the NEBOSH states that the largest external cost is the frequent audits conducted by third party. Now, when you're having a management system, right, a certified formal and certified management system, you're going to have audits, and you're going to have internal audits, and you're going to have external audits. And internal audits are going to be done by the staff of your own organization, so there's not going to be much cost. But when the external auditors are coming, it's going to cost you money. Right? So because of these frequent audits which will be conducted by third party, the organization is paying out money and it's an external cost to them as such. So you agree with the managing director that there are costs with the certification. Yes, even the certificate which is going to come from the certifying body, the organization which is going to certify you and give you the certificate that yes, you're certified to say ISO 45001, it's going to cost money, right? So there are costs with certification, but you argue that, and you tell him that, look, if it's done properly as such, these are outweighed. So this cost is almost outweighed as such by many benefits. We get so many benefits from the cost that you're little bit that you're going to pay on the certification, but these will be outweighed by many benefits, including reducing overall cost across the business as such. So that you're trying to convince them that say, no, don't cancel the certification. Yes, on one hand, we are going to pay for the certification, but on the other hand, there'll be a lot of benefits, overall benefits that will come across to us as such, right, to the organization. Going to the last paragraph, the managing director thinks that the external audits, they are unnecessary and they add little value because the organization already conducts regular workplace inspections. So now NEBOSH is like, it's leading to this area of like audits and inspections. So it's telling you that no, though external audits are like managing director, the senior most person thinks it's unnecessary. It adds little value. Right? Because we are already doing workplace inspections, which is an active monitoring method. So he finds that when you are doing inspection, why should we spend on audit? Why should we spend external auditing? So they also question why external parties are used when their own workers could carry out audits at lower cost. So he's thinking in his mind that when these people are doing the internal audit, right? Why can't they do also the external audit? They're doing the same audit as such. And plus they are also involved into workplace safety inspections. So you advise them, you're telling the managing director that audits differ considerably from inspections. So basically now it is coming onto the subject matter of element 4.3, audits and inspection, the differences. So you are highlighting, you're telling the managing director that no, inspections is something different, audit is something different as such. So you highlight this by telling them that you could audit your workplace inspection process. Means you can do an audit of how the workplace inspection process is going on. How are you doing it? What sort of checklist are you using? Show me your checklist. So you can audit that whole process where you're doing maybe a weekly inspection process. But you can't inspect the audit process. Means a person who's doing a workplace inspection, he will not inspect how the audit is to be done as such, right? So you are giving him this sort of an analogy as such. Now you also comment that using internal auditors, right? Of course, when you have a health and safety management system, the auditing has to be done as part of this requirement or the standard. So you're going to have internal auditing and you're going to have external auditing. So the people are going to do internal auditing. So you are telling, you're commenting that look, by using internal auditors, you may save the organization some money. You may save some money, but they are not always the best people to use, right? For what? For basically for external auditing as such to keep the certification, right? So they are not the best people. So in the examination, when you get the paper as such, the first reading, you're not able to absorb a lot of information, right? So take a break. You have the first reading, take a break, fine, just go get up, because it may take you half an hour or 20 minutes, 25 minutes to gradually read the paper as such. Take a break, unwind, come back again and go through a second reading. Don't just jump onto the questions, right? Because once you start reading the questions, it's going to come to mind, oh, where is the answer? No? Question means your mind starts running onto the answer. So have a first reading, have a second reading, take a break as such, come to the third reading, have a third reading. At least I suggest people, at least do a third reading. If you're comfortable reading on the laptop as such or your computer as such, fine. If you're old school type like me, I would prefer to take a hard copy of it, and I would like to, I go hard, I'm old school type as such, right? I was not educated on the laptop. So I like something more physical. So if you can get a printout as such, old school type, I like always a ruler as such. So have a ruler or a good paper and a couple of pens. So as you are reading this, sometimes you can even just with different colored pens, extract little information, because the whole idea of open book exam is the ability to extract information. If you can extract information clearly and correctly and analyze this information, then formulating the answers is just it becomes very easy as such. So the first strategy, read the paper, take a break, read a second time, take a break, read a third time, take a break. And if you're reading, if you're going a hard copy or if you have a notebook as such, right? Try to jot down some points or try to analyze, extract information, read between the lines and see, oh, this means this, this means that as such, right? So start building up those kind of things, right? The habit as such of analyzing the information, right? This way. Going ahead, now coming to the questions. So of course, now maybe you have done the reading as such. Now we'll come on to the questions as such. Now when you come to the questions, how are the questions? Now normally have this kind of task. What is a task meaning? Task means it is telling you what is the theme of the question as such. And under the task, you have these kind of questions. So like task number, I'm just going to read through all the questions first, and then I'll go step by step with each question, extracting the information, taking the subject matter, writing the answers as such. So task number 1 is managing the risk for those who are working from home. So question number 1, comment on the organization's approach to managing risk to those working from home. So now NEBOSH is asking you what the word comment. Now, whenever we hear the word comment as such, where does our mind first go to? Comment means something has to be negative in nature, right? So comment, like I comment on your work, the manager comments on how your performance. So something to do with fault finding. But here, when you come for an examination as such, when NEBOSH is asking comment on something, you have to keep your mind open and see commenting means commenting on the positive aspects also, commenting on the negative aspects. So you have to keep your mind open to both these aspects, commenting as such. And then coming down as such, when move on to the right side, you see that marks, right? So it is 10 marks in bold. NEBOSH has put the marks in bold. So if it's 10 marks, you saw at the start of the question paper that each point that you write correctly, you're going to get 1 mark for it. And as I said, I repeat that there is no negative marking. So there's absolutely no negative marking. So even if you don't write something correctly, you're not going to lose the mark as such. And then coming down, right, below the question, you see some sort of a note. And again, NEBOSH has put the word note in the bold as such. That note, you should support your answer. Means your answer has to be supported wherever applicable. Means where applicable, as far as possible, you can even say that where applicable. Using relevant information from scenario. That means NEBOSH is wanting you to first extract information, use that part of the information. Maybe it can be a few words or 1 word or a sentence as such. Use that, combine your comments, join them together, and then formulate your answer as such. So this is what they want you to do. That means NEBOSH is putting it in bold and stating that, look, if you want the mark, it's not only just writing a comment. I don't want your comment. I also want your comment to be mixed with the information from scenario, and I want them both to be joined together as such. Then only I'm going to give you that 1 mark. So many candidates say, well, I wrote very well, but NEBOSH never gave me any mark as such. So the examiner never gave me any mark. Why? Because NEBOSH, like you failed or you did not focus on the second line as such. What is NEBOSH asking you to do? That you should. And when I say should means what? That it's an obligation upon you. It's like you shall do it. That is a past tense of shall. That you have to do it. If you want that mark, I want you to use the relevant, I want you to use the supporting information. Okay, going ahead. Now first I'm just going to read down all the questions as such, right? And then I'll come on to analyzing the questions as such. Okay, coming on to task number 2. So the task means the theme, the overall theme of the question as such. Now task number 2 is communicating health and safety as such. So now question number 2, effective communication is essential to positively influence health and safety culture. So we learned that from element number 3 that you need, if you want to improve culture, right? How do you improve the culture? You need communication and effective communication. Means the communication has to be effective as such. And then you are seeing another kind of a line, another kind of wording as such. I'm just going to highlight this over here, and it's stated based on the scenario only. So I'm going to put that in yellow, and I'm just going to scroll up and also put this. Note you should support your answer where applicable using relevant information from scenario. So now I've highlighted these 2 parts as such. Now coming here on the second question, based on the scenario means keeping your mind to the scenario, keeping your reference to the scenario. Give examples. NEBOSH asking, give me examples of how communication is used effectively by the organization. Means how are you using this communication for an effective means, like for your work process, like how are you using it, like to benefit you as such. And NEBOSH has stated that I want the 10 marks for the question means you have to keep in mind that I need at least minimum 10 points as such. Going ahead, task number 3. Benefits of certification to an ISO 45000 ISO Occupational Health and Safety Management System standard to the organization. So now NEBOSH is stating that it's talking more to do with element 2, that what is the benefit of having this health and safety management system as such. So question number 3 states, what arguments could you use to help the managing director? So now arguments, one is comments, one is arguments. So what arguments could you use to help the managing director understand the benefits to the organization of maintaining occupational health and safety management system certification? So now The managing director, we could see in the scenario as such that the managing director, he wanted to get rid of the certification. Why? Because it was a cost to the organization, right? He was saying that this is the greatest external cost, having the certificate. Let's get rid of it. But you are saying, no, don't get rid of it. Because why? Though it costs little money as such, but the little bit of investment that we will do, but the overall benefit is much bigger. So now NEBOSH is stating that now you give your argument, means you are arguing with the managing director. You're trying to convince him. So in order to convince him, you need some arguments. Like you have to argue, put forth some sort of convincing points as such. So what arguments or what convincing points or what sort of supporting, convincing points you can put to the MD to tell him that no, these are the following benefits of the Health and Safety Management System certification. And again, coming down again, NEBOSH has stated, note, you should support your answer where applicable using relevant information from scenario. So I'm going to again put this in yellow as such, right? So just highlighting first, let's see the theme of the questions. Let's understand the theme. So when you get the question paper, first you read the scenario several times, go through all the questions first, just to first absorb what NEBOSH is going to overall ask you in this exam. Coming on to task number 4, applying further control measures. So that means now something to do with risk assessment, and that in your risk assessment you have to apply further control measures as such, right? So something to do with element 3.4, like in your mind, you'll get the theme of it as such. So coming to task number 4, based on the scenario only. So again, I'm going to highlight this thing, based on the scenario, right? So I'm going to put this over here in yellow. So based on the scenario, what administrative measures are the organization planning to take that would limit the spread of the virus and keep workers safe and healthy? So now NEBOSH has put, and you can see if you observe, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, administrative measures, and they have put it a little bit in italics. I'm even going to put this in yellow as such, right? Though it's not, but I'm just highlighting. We know that when you did the control measures, when you want to implement the control measures, you need to go as per the hierarchy of controls. Now, when you're going as per the hierarchy of controls, what is it? There's elimination, there is substitution, there is engineering controls, there's admin controls, and then you're coming on to PT as such. So NEBOSH is asking, what are the administrative measures? So we have put in highlight and like italics. That's it. Just focus on admin measures. I don't want you to be focusing on engineering measures. And there's a reason that when they're putting like in italics, means they want you to have some sort of keep a focus to. Don't give me other controls as such. I don't want PP. I don't want this. I just want to keep admin measures as such. So what administrative measures are the organization planning? Now see the word over here, planning. So I'm going to even highlight this over here, because when we come to the answer, when we come to formulating the answer, the understanding of the question is important. What is it being planned? It means something that is there's an intention to do. It's not something that is already in place. It is some sort of intention that they will do. They will plan to limit the spread of the virus. That's the first thing. And also to keep the workers safe and healthy. So two things. I want to control control the hazard as such, right? And I also want to fulfill my responsibility of keeping the people safe as such, right? So I want to fulfill my moral responsibility and my legal responsibility of keeping the people safe as such. So two things, two aspects, right? And NEBOSH has given you this question for 20 marks as such. Okay. Coming ahead, going to task number 5. Task number 5, it's stating influencing behavior to improve the performance. So how you can influence the behavior to improve the performance. Now, when you're talking of influencing behavior, improve performance, means we learned it in element number 3, that certain kind of things, something that is influencing. What can be influencing the behavior? Certain kind of factors. And we learned about human factors. So you can get the theme, okay, now NEBOSH is asking me on human factors and improving the performance, means health and safety performance, means how the behavior, if I influence the behavior, how it will ultimately improve the performance of the organization. So question number 5, when workers eventually return to working in the office with new control measures in place, right? So they are coming on with new control measures. They will need to adopt to new behaviors, definitely. Like example, today we, with the pandemic, we are adopted to a new behavior of washing our hands, hand sanitizing. So it's a change in the behavior. So when the people are going to come to the office as such, there will be new controls in place. They will need to adopt with new behaviors as such, right? So you feel, you as a health and safety advisor, so you feel that the organization will be effective in positively influencing this behavior change. Now, when the human factors are there, they are influencing the behavior. And when we learned it, how is it influencing? How do the human factors influence the behavior? Either in a positive way or in a negative way. So here NEBOSH is asking, how is it going to be effective in positively influencing the behavioral change as such? But now they're asking you justify. So now they are saying justify why you believe this using examples from the scenario only to support your justification. So you could see on one hand, they're asking you comments. On one hand, they're asking you arguments. On one hand, they're asking you to justify. So you see these words as such. So various words are being used as such, right? To in the question as such. So now you have to justify why you believe that with some examples that this organization will be effective in positively influencing this behavior change. But when you read this question as such, when you reflect on the question, you learn about human factors, but you feel NEBOSH is not asking me. I learned 3 factors. I learned human factor. In human factors, I learned about organizational factor. I learned about job factor. I learned about individual factor. But nowhere in the question I can find that which factor is it being asked as such, right? It's only asked to justify. It means this question tells you that, it's looking for a very broad justification as such, right? So broad justification means like something that I have to focus on all the kind of factors. How? And we learn that all the factors are linked to each other. There's a common link between them. So we're going to focus on that common link as such. Then coming on to task number 6, right? And this is for 15 marks as such. Means you need to have 15 points as such. And the minute you see that 15 marks as such, you know that, if NEBOSH were to ask me only on one factor, maybe organizational factor as such, there won't be so many points. Or maybe if they ask me only the job factor, there won't be so many points. So definitely looking at the marks, you're getting this sort of an idea such that, it's a combination of all this, right? And nowhere is mentioned only organization factor, only job factor, only individual factor. Means it's a sum total. You have to bring everything together, consolidate this thing and present it as a 15-mark answer as such. Okay, going ahead, coming on to task number 6. Task 6 states checking the management system effectiveness through auditing. Now, the theme has changed, of the question is to auditing as such, element 4.3. So task number 6, question number 6, I'm just going to increase a font over here. So task number 6, the managing director appears to be confused about audits, inspections, and those who carry them out. So definitely we could see in the last 2 paragraphs that he seems to be quite confused as such. Now, advise the managing director on part A. So certain times in the questions you will see part A and part B as such. So part A, the differences between an audit and a workplace inspection, and NEBOSH is stated for 10 marks. And part B, the benefits of using third-party auditors rather than internal workers for carrying out health and safety audits of the management system, and they put it for 5 marks. But now when you look at this question, and when you just browse the question paper, all the parts that I have highlighted, let's take this off as such. I just want to take this off. Okay, and when you look at the question paper, all the areas which I've highlighted, note you should support your answer based on the scenario. Note you should support your answer based on the scenario. Even this is stating using examples, right? So I'm just going to highlight this over here. Using examples from the scenario only to support your justification means based on the scenario, means something looking into the scenario as such. So even this I'm highlighting as such. But coming to this last question over here, I don't seem to find within this question as such anything where it tells me to focus onto the scenario as such. It's telling me the theme from that scenario, but the question doesn't seem to have any kind of these supporting points, using examples based on the scenario. Note you should support your answer where applicable using relevant. So it's not asking me anything of that sort. So this sort of a question seems to be more to do with theoretical base, more to do with the subject matter as such, right? Nothing is not even asking me to extract any information or use some sort of supporting information now. So it's not asking me to do that as such. Fine. Okay, let's go ahead. Then coming to task number 7, identifying the data used to monitor health and safety performance. So now when you want to analyze the performance, you need some sort of data. And this data is going to help you to analyze how is my performance? How did I perform in the whole year? How is my organization doing as such? So I need some sort of data. So that's a theme. Coming to task number 7, the organization needs to determine the effectiveness of its health and safety performance. So now you need to determine the performance. You are having a health and safety management system. It is a formal and it is a certified system as such. So now we have to determine its performance, how well we are doing. Though we have all these arrangements in the workplace, though we are taking all these control measures, how well are we performing? So again, coming to based on the activities, means something to do based, when I'm saying based on the activities, means based on the scenario. So based on the activities actual or planned in the scenario. So sometimes NEBOSH might not say based on the scenario, but they might even slightly twist it around and say based on the activities actual or planned in the scenario, what could you collect So that means you have to collect something and what you can use as health and safety performance indicators in the organization. And it's a 10-mark question as such. So I've gone through all the questions. So at least I've got to, like, once you read the scenario, then you come down to the questions, and I've got a clear picture that, well, these are the 7 questions. It's going to be a 100-mark paper. I have to attempt all the questions as such, and I've got a fair idea of like what NEBOSH is going to ask me as such. Now coming, what is a style? What is a theme? I saw certain kind of a theme, right? I'm just going to zoom out as such. I saw some sort of a theme as such, that supporting based on the scenario, supporting the answer based on the scenario, using examples based on the scenario, and one question as such. It is not asking me to do that as such. So first we need to understand, for those candidates who are new, that what is the general theme of questions at the NEBOSH IGC examination as such. So coming, I've just made a little small write-up as such, that what are the styles, what are the NEBOSH OB question style as such. So there are 2 styles of questions. One is known as an application-based question, means something to apply. Apply means evidence, information, or focusing onto the scenario, so application-based. And the other kind of a question is known as a theoretical-based, means more to do with the theory side as such. So what is an application-based question? An application-based question means you will see in the question as such, in the question paper, 2 sort of information. One is note you should support your answer where applicable using relevant information from scenario, which we saw, which are highlighted in yellow with color. And the second thing you saw also based on the scenario. So you are seeing either of them. So when you see either of them, when you say this note you should support your answer using relevant information or based on the scenario, means immediately your mind has picked up that these are application based, means it requires me to apply something to the question or the answer as such, means applications. So let's first understand what is the difference between the two. Right? Both are application based question, but one, NEBOSH has used the word note. And you could see in the question paper that when they put note as such, we have taken a little extra effort to stating that when I say note, I'm putting it into big bold letters, right? I'm putting it into dark bold. It means I'm drawing your attention. Whereas when I look at based on the scenario, it's not put into bold as such, right? So they're saying, okay, you can focus as such. But here, NEBOSH has taken that little extra effort just to draw your attention, like a blinkers, you can say as such. But note, you should as such, like you should. That way, means so it's telling you some sort of an obligation it's putting upon you. Okay, let's go and understand this. So coming ahead, note you should support your answer using relevant information from the scenario. So remember, now what does it mean? Like, how would you analyze this? How would you understand this as such? And this is the common theme among all the OB papers which you have seen in the past as such, or discussed, or gone through as such. So here, what is NEBOSH looking? Here, NEBOSH is looking for you to pick up information or evidence from the scenario and use it to support the answer. Use this information to support it. That is why they specifically mention this line usually at the end of the question, which you could see. The question is there, and always at the end of the question, it's never at the start, it's always at the end of the question where they say, you should support the answer. Now, what is the meaning of the word should? Right, in English language, like we learn like should, may, must, shall, and all these kind of things. So it is used to indicate some sort of an obligation or a duty as such. You should do this, right? So it is some sort of an obligation upon you. It's been put upon you. So it is your duty as such to support your answer using relevant information from scenario. Meaning, in short, I would say that it is mandatory for you, to do this wherever applicable. And NEBOSH has stated wherever applicable. Means it doesn't state that every single point of your answer should have supporting information. No, they have also used these 2 words, that wherever applicable, as far as possible. Now, wherever you can find the sort of information that you can use it and supplement it to your answer, this information, wherever applicable, as far as possible. Whatever you can find, please use it as far as possible. So it also opens up one possibility that yes, you can write some answer, but we may not have some sort of supporting information as such, but that answer reflects upon the question being asked, like it is supporting one of your points of the answer, that is showing some sort of an understanding as such. So that's when NEBOSH has stated that wherever applicable, as far as possible as such. Going on to the next one, so this is we got an understanding of note you should support your answer. Coming on to the second type is based on the scenario only. And we saw that these words based on the scenario, it's not showing, it's not having any kind of in bold as such. So when you see these words, which is based on the scenario only, you must understand that NEBOSH is expecting you to write your answers that is based upon the given scenario. Means keep your focus on the scenario and write your answers keeping the scenario in mind. Means always keep it in mind as such. Yes, you might say, does it need to have supporting information? Maybe a little bit, maybe not necessary, but something related to the scenario. So they want you to keep a focus onto the scenario, whether you have that information, you have a supporting information, or you may not have the supporting information, but it is something relevant to the scenario, not something which is just like abstract as such. So it means they want you to be related, they want you to be connected to the scenario into the answer as such, and which you may use some sort of supporting information, or you can blend it into your answer as such. Whereas the other type of question is like from application based question, we come to the other type of question which is known as theoretical based question. Now, what is a theoretical based question? How do you identify this kind of question? Is that in such type of a question, NEBOSH is simply testing your deeper and your critical understanding of the subject matter in the question. It means they're taking some theory topic they're extracting from element 1 to 4, and they want to test your understanding, your theoretical understanding of a subject matter, where here they are taking like the difference between audit and inspection as such. So they are saying, okay, can you tell me what is the difference? But of course, it's also the theme of the scenario, but they want you to show like what you understand, what is the difference between audit, what's the difference between an inspection, or like what is the benefit if I use external auditors over internal auditors, some sort of thing. So here, write your answers as such that show to the examiner with clarity. Now you have to show with some sort of clarity your thorough understanding, a clear understanding in a very crisp, in a very clear and a very concise manner. Because why NEBOSH states I have a word count, right? So I want you to fit it into the word count. Yes, if you exceed a bit as such here and there, it's fine, but not something like make it double as such, like 6,000 words. Yes, okay, you may cross from 3,020 to maybe 3,350, 3,370. Okay, it's fine. NEBOSH, I'm not saying I'm not penalizing you. Nowhere have they stated as such, but try to keep it as crisp and clear as such, right? Just like examiner reads, understands, and he gets that thing that yes, you have a clear understanding of the subject matter. And in these theoretical based questions, you will not find, so I'll put over, you will not find in capital letters, block capital, that either of the below statements as part of the question. So what you will not find in theoretical based question, you will never find this, you should support your answer where applicable using relevant information, or you will not find this thing based on the scenario. Right, so you can see now, looking through this little small chart which I prepared as such, that when I again go back to the question paper, I could see something related to the scenario, related to the scenario, related to the scenario, related to the scenario, or related. So that means now you're getting an understanding that bulk of the question paper, right? And how many marks have been allotted for this theoretical based question? Only 10 to 15 marks. Right? Sometimes when you now that you've understood the theme of the question, and when you go back at all the past questions, NEBOSH only keeps about 10 to 15% or 10 to 15 marks as such, maximum for a theoretical based question. Remaining the 90, or you can say 85 to 90% of the paper, or 85 to 90% of the marks, you can say 85 to 90 marks, they're all application based questions, right? So now you're getting a clear understanding that any kind of OB, whichever OB I'm going to appear for, I've already appeared for as such, or not cleared it as such, my mind has to be focused more onto referring to the scenario. Means extraction of information is important. Using that information, combining my comments, justification, arguments as such, and formulating my answers. So then only I'm going to get the mark. Otherwise, I'm not going to get the mark. Otherwise, NEBOSH is saying, oh, even if you've written a comment, but it's not having supporting information, so why should I give you a mark? When you have not followed what I require you to follow as such. And that's where the candidates sometimes falter. They like the art of combining and joining these two information together. All right, let's go ahead. Let's see. So we have understood what is the theme of the questions as such, right? So I'm just going to scroll down. Now in the examination, once you've read through the questions, right? Now you take each question one at a time. No particular order as such, but I'm for this webinar as such, I've taken going from question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as such, in systematic order. You can choose to whichever, if you feel something is easy and you want to do that first, go ahead by all means. as such. Right? So I'm starting with question number 1. Now, when you start with question number 1, like example, managing risk for those working from home, comment on the organization's approach to managing risk to those working from home. And you saw it's an application-based question that I need to support my answer as such, right? So now, what is the art of doing this? That I can't, it doesn't make any sense just jumping on writing the answer. You're not going to get any information. So first thing is that extraction of information. That means from the scenario, as or like if I have a printed like a scenario set, I need to extract this information out. Right? First, I have to go systematically through the scenario and see what are the ways or what are the approaches that the organization is doing to managing the risk as such. But I also sometimes need to read the question very thoroughly and see that the organization's approach to managing the risk to those working from home means now I have to be focused onto that part of the scenario as such, where people are working at home, they're exposed to certain kind of risk, and how is the organization managing those risks. So certain times once you've read the whole questions as such, then you pick up the first question, second at a time. Break the question down into small parts. Ask yourself, read it a few times and see, have I understood what is NEBOSH asking me? That they are asking me my comments. And they're asking my comments on what? They're asking me comments on how the organization is approaching to manage its risk. Means what is the approach? Means what is the way in which they are looking into the risk, managing those risks, right? So what is the approach to the risk as such? And for what? For those working from home. Means I'm not concerned. NEBOSH is saying I want to focus on the home working part only. What is the second part? The second part of the scenario is working from office, means return to the office. But I don't want you to focus there. I want you to keep a focus only on the home working part as such. So commenting organization's approach for managing the risk, but only focus on the home part as such. So now you have to once you read the question, once you understand the question, means you know where to focus into the scenario. So go back to that part of the scenario. But coming back down, instead of jumping firstly, application based. So when you have this application based as such, now whichever way you study as such, you might be doing it, you might want to formulate to answer on the laptop. If you're a more digital person as such, you're more digitally familiar as such, fine, you can focus on, right? Or if you're old school type, I would probably take pencils or take pens as such and start first extracting out, underline, highlight, mark, or just write, just take full stack papers. I have a bunch of papers on my desk as such, and I like to write, pick up information. So my first thing, my approach, whenever we have application-based questions, first thing is extract, pull up the information, break it, dissect it, break it up into small parts, extract this information out. So if you like to go through a PDF and go up and down, fancy it, okay, fine. If you like to have hard copy, I'm old school type, I prefer that. It's much easier with me using a ruler, taking line by line. I'm asking myself, line by line, is there information here? Is there something that I can use as such? So go a very systematic approach. Don't just search randomly, because you're going to waste time. You're just going to get lost as such also, and then you're not going to be able to extract information. So go very systematic. Have a very disciplined approach, because time is very important. You need time to rest. You need time to eat. You need time to take a break. You need time to just stretch from the chair as such, right? So time management is important. So how you can manage time unless you have some sort of a discipline, and a discipline in even extracting information is required as such. Okay. So coming over here, going a little bit down, right? And now what I've done is how I'm presenting as such, because now of course it's in a virtual mode as such. So I've extracted this information now, right? And I'm just going to come down a little bit. So I've taken each question now, and I'm just showing you that what was my first approach? My first approach was extracting of information. So I took the first question and I said, okay, let's first hunt for evidence. Because why? NEBOSH is stating that I need to support my answer using relevant information. So I need to hunt for evidence first. Unless I have the evidence, unless I have this information, then only I'll be able to support my answer and write a good answer. And then I can say, I can get this mark for that. I can say, yes, I should get a mark for it as such. So I've come to the evidence part of it. Now, looking at this question, where could I first just pick up when I'm looking evidence, don't focus on words, pick up sentences, ask yourself, can this be some evidence? Can this be something as such? Even if you have a doubt also, pick it up. Right? Because you may not be correct at the first approach. You might have to go one reading, second reading with each question, going to the scenario and picking up and asking yourself, can this be some evidence? Sometimes the evidence you might pick up You may not use it. Maybe say, no, it's not relevant as such. It's fine. So let's start with the first one, right? Coming to evidence. So now I'll pick up this evidence, like I'll just put it into a neat format as such. So what is the evidence in which I'm stating that how is the organization managing the risks to those working from home? So the first thing I would say is what is how the risk be managed? When you manage your risk means what you're focusing on some sort of control measures as such. Means organization is putting into place something. So the primary, I could see from the scenario, primary control measures that are recommended against the spread of the virus are keeping a physical distance between the people, called social distancing, general hygiene measures, frequent hand washing or hand sanitizing, and regular cleaning and decontamination of surfaces. So that's my first information. I extracted that out. Then I could find, that because of this hazard, there's going to be a control measure. So there's going to be some sort of face mask. So there's wearing face masks that cover the mouth and the nose is also recommended in some circumstances as an additional measures. Okay, that's my another evidence extracted. First, pull out evidence, right? Pull out all this, bring out all the evidence. Write it if you like in a diary, write it on paper, or use Word or use Notepad or whatever as such. First, pull out the evidence. And if those are working digitally as such, you don't have to spend time typing as such, because when you go to the question paper, this question paper is not some secure PDF document. So I always tell the candidates, well, if you find some information as such, you can just work with the question paper, you can just highlight this and you can copy it and say, example, I'm opening Notepad as such, and I'm just pasting this information. So you can have this information on Notepad and just extract it, and you can just put over example. This is question number 1, and this is I'm just putting over first the evidence as such, and make a list of all the evidence as such. Oh, this is my evidence, that is my evidence. So you can even work digitally. You can work faster if you're conversant, or if you like to work on hard copy. I prefer to use paper and pen or pencil as such. More I use paper and pencil. I prefer that way. Any approach, right? So you can do either of the approaches as such. Okay, I'm just closing this. Coming back down again. Okay, coming here. So evidence. Now for the first question, what is the evidence as such? So coming here, the primary control measures that are recommended against the spread of the virus are keeping a physical distance between people, called social distancing, general hygiene measures, frequent hand washing or hand sanitizing, and regular cleaning and decontamination of surfaces. Second thing is wearing face masks that cover the mouth. So it's a way of managing the risk. Right, though you are at home, also that is a guidance. So I said, okay, it might be relevant. I picked it up as such. Then I also found that company has a certification to an internationally recognized occupational health and safety management system standard. Right, so we have some sort of certification. So this system, right, the system requires me to have a risk assessment to control the risk. So I said, okay, that can be some sort of evidence. Let's pick that up also. Then I found that in order to control the spread of the virus through physical contact and protecting the people, you and all other office workers are following current government instructions to work from home. So that's another way of managing that, is that you are following the instructions. So it's a control measure, right, to prevent your contacting the virus as such. So then, I felt that's evidence. Let's pick it up. Then I felt that reading it, that there's a written procedure and guidance on best practice working at home, right? Control measure for managing the risk. So I said, okay, that's evidence. Then I found that people are going to work from home, and I also have to think about the risk. So one hazard is the virus, but when people are going to work at home, and when I read that line, including workstation setup in a home working environment. Now, environment has changed. So now people are going to work at home. So I'm thinking in my mind, okay, so it's not only the COVID as such, but when people are going to work for 8 hours sitting at home, sitting in a chair, maybe the chair is like a plastic chair, not ergonomic as such. You can't adjust it, you can't turn around as such, So definitely it's going to affect your back as such, neck. So ergonomics are going to get affected. So that's another risk. And also I've seen that how I have to also give some sort of comments as to how it is being managed. So now people are working at home. So now this control measures, the guidance has to be also distributed to people. Awareness has to be given because everyone's remote. So I said, that's also evidence, pick it up. Then I found that, organization is making widespread use of technology to enable remote home working, including video conferencing facilities for business meetings and client contacts. That's information, that's evidence. Okay, let's pick that up also. And then I found that organization is also concerned about the workers' mental well-being. That's also another thing. That one I'm thinking about COVID, one I'm thinking about the health, physical health, but the other thing I'm thinking also about the mental health. So that's also evidence in the sense that I have to, organization also has a moral duty of care towards that also. right? So organization is also concerned about the workers' mental well-being during this new way of working. And I'm also taking extracting information that how are they doing it as such, right? How are they managing that risk? Even that is a risk to the worker. It's going to affect, right? So how are they managing that? They have scheduled, the management team has asked each department to schedule short 30-minute computer-based team meetings on a weekly basis. So that's a control measure. So I can use that as a comment as such, supporting information. And why are they doing that? What is the intention? So the intention is to maintain social contact. So I want social contact means so that it can, though I'm managing the risk, also it is benefiting, right? Remote working as such. So social contact is being there. And it's also a forum to raise concerns, right? Now, what's going to happen? Because you're having a management system, so definitely has to have some sort of consultation. People have to raising the complaints, concerns, issues, problems, whatever such. And also, I'm finding this evidence that one-to-one meetings can be arranged for those reluctant to discuss things during the meeting. So that's another way that, okay, your well-being, your mental well-being is being affected. You don't want to talk in the formal meeting, okay? As a management, I'm thinking, okay, you can even discuss with me personally. So that's also some sort of waste, some sort of commenting information. So I've picked up all of this information. I've extracted this sort of information. Now, once you extract this information, I've just because of this virtual mode as such, I've just brought this whole information together as such. Now, the approach is once you have this information, whether it's written on paper or it is on notepad or in Word as such, now you have to use this evidence. Why? Because Nebosh has stated that when you start writing the answer, I need you to take parts of this evidence and use it and write my answers as such. So now I'm going to use this evidence. I'm going to write my answers and start joining them together. So it's a very slow process, right? Because now you're formulating, and this process of when you join the evidence with your comments, with your justification, with your arguments, this is a time-consuming little process. But it becomes easier. On one hand, it's time-consuming. Yes, it takes time to write the way crisp, clear, but on the other hand, it becomes easier because you already have the theme to the answer. You already have what you're going to focus your answer on. So you have the subject matter you extracted, but now you just have to formulate and nicely blend it into making an answer. So this is a little art as such, right? And which you have to it comes through. You just have to polish it. So there'll be several kind of refining as such. All right. So what I've done is I've written the answer out as such, and I'm just going to read, right? So you already already the evidence, you already know the points as such. Right, and I'm just going to read if I were to answer this, right? How would I answer this sort of question as such? Okay, so coming on, so whenever a good way, a professional way that when you have a question as such, right? The examiner, yes, of course, he's going to have the question paper. He's going to have your answer sheet, right? And so he knows the exam, he knows the scenario as such. But still, as a professional way of answering, right? And your paper is going to go somewhere in the world. Somebody's going to read it. Somebody's going to check it as such. It's always nice as a strategy to tell that open the answer with a part of the question. Means use a little of the question as a theme of the question in opening the answer. So what example this asked over here, give comment on the organization's approach to managing risk to those working from home. So Nebosh should ask to comment. So you state that you open the answer stating that my comments on the organization's approach to managing risk to those working from home, right, are as follows as such. So open it, right? Open each the thing. How many words will go? Maximum 10 words, fine, or 15 words, fine. It's okay. No problem, but at least it gives a nice clear an approach, and then you don't have to again keep repeating my comments, my comment, my this as such. So you already started that, open it up in the starting of the answer as such. Now coming on, now when you write your answers, right, it's always nice, don't make it into paragraph, right, because it's always nice to have it in point form. I always tell candidates that put it in point form. So, right, point number 1, point number 2, point. If you want to put it in bullets, put it in bullets. I fancy points. I prefer points as such. Why? Because at the end of the day, when I write my answer, when I'm writing the question, I know, okay, it's a 10-mark question. Like when I have the question paper, when I'm reviewing the question paper as such, and I saw, oh, it's a 10-mark question. I'm looking, oh, it's a 10-mark question, means at least I have to have minimum 10 points. So when I'm having the bullets as such, then I have to keep counting how many bullets were there, how many dots were there, 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot, 4 dot, and you don't want to keep doing that over and over in the exam. So for that strategy, I prefer numbers. But if you still prefer bullets, go ahead. Fine, whatever you fancy as such. So I prefer numbers. So it helps me to code it. Okay, it's a 20-mark question. I should have minimum 20, minimum as such, or like coming to 20. Now coming to the point number 1. So each point, and I always tell candidates that, look, give a nice professional look in your answer template. So like leave a blank line between 2 points. Why? Because the examiner is also going to read so many papers in the day. He's also tired as such, right? So sometimes he's just going to browse through and read as such, So you want him to actually see the information with clarity and nice, crisp, clear, like points as such. He knows, okay, the question number 1 is going to be 10 marks. I need 10 points. I need to give you 10 marks as such for that, right? So make it easier, make his life easier also, right? Make him happy also, and you also give a nice, clean, professional look. So both ways, like, symbiosis, like make each other happy. Now coming to the point 1 as such. Management has now, how is the organization's approach to managing the risk? So management has actively implemented current government instructions to work from home in order to control the spread of the virus through physical contact, right, and protect its workers. So now what did I do in this thing? I took 1 point. So what is the evidence from scenario? That evidence was that there was current government instructions to work from home as such, right? So this was like example, I'm going to highlight this. There was current government instructions to work from home as such. And you could see evidence, part of this answer is having evidence. And if I were to just go up over there and just go up as such, I'm not going to go for all the answers, but just showing the first thing as such, like current government instructions to work from home. So that's one thing. That means to manage the risk, right? I'm following the guidance, I'm following the instructions, and I need to work from home. So means my answer is like, before managing this, I've extracted information. You don't have to highlight this evidence as such or in the mistake. No, if you want to, fine. You're not going to get any extra marks as such. But the examiner, when he's going to read your answer, he's going to see, does this answer have something related to the scenario? Does it have supporting information as such? So I just wanted to show for one of them, like how I extracted, where is this information in the scenario as such. Okay. Coming on down. Okay, and I'm going to make this a little better, nice. Just zoom in as such so that it looks better on your screen. Some might be on mobile, some might be on the laptop, so you can read it clearly. So I've opened the answer. My comments on the organization's approach to managing risk to those working from home are as follows. Point number 1, management has actively implemented current government instructions to work from home in order to control the spread of the virus through physical contact and protect its workers. So that's first thing, right? So I've used the information. Second, the primary control measures that are recommended against the spread of the virus, such as keeping physical distance between people, general hygiene, and they are incorporated into a written procedure and guidance on best practice for home working. So I've used this information. It can be a whole sentence that you can extract. And then I've stated that all of this guidance that was given, that I've taken official guidance, now this has been incorporated into a written procedure and guidance on best practice for home working. So that's my second comment, that the organization has used this instructions, used this official guidance, made it into a safe system of work, made it into a written procedure for home working as well. So that is the second way in managing the risk, that I've used this official guidance. Then coming to the point number 3, that the procedure and guidance on best practice for home working created by the health and safety advisor of the organization, they have been distributed to all the workers. So you can see how each of the evidence, it becomes easier for me, like when I've taken this thing, like, this guidance distributed to all the workers. So when I'm looking at the points, I can see how this sort of guidance, this process and guidance, it has been distributed. So let's use that as a point. So you can see when you have the evidence in front of your eyes, whether it's on digital or whether it's there, it becomes easy to use this evidence, use this point and write your answer. Life becomes much simpler. But if you start hunting for one point and then writing the answer, it becomes quite difficult. So always I tell the candidates, use the strategy. Extract information out. Yes, maybe extracting information takes maybe some more time, so time is going. But it makes your life simpler by making sure that you have the evidence and you have the answer. Right? So it's a little extra effort. But the benefit, as I said, it comes much later. You will see the benefit as such coming in. Okay, going down. Okay, coming here. Let me label just. All right. Then the organization is making widespread use of technology to enable remote home working, along with being able to communicate essential health and safety information. So that's another way of managing that. I'm making use of technology to enable remote home working. So I'm keeping my people safe. I'm protecting them, right? So I'm managing the risk of instead of them working in the office, I'm managing the risk as working from home and I'm giving them technology. Also, in order to keep the workers safe and prevent direct physical contact with other people, that is the clients also. Now, I think, who's going to be in the office? Clients also. So I don't want my people to be interacting with the clients. So the organization has also included video conferencing facilities for business meetings and client contact. So to prevent the people or workers in the office from interacting with the clients who can bring the virus into the workplace, right? So managing that risk, right? I've also included video conferencing facilities to keep my business working. So let my workers and the clients both meet in a virtual platform as such. So that is the way I'm managing the risk. So that is also information. Point number 6, working from home will include extensive use of a display screen equipment like a laptop or a desktop computer. And to prevent the risk of developing musculoskeletal diseases from ergonomic hazards, the organization's health and safety advisor has also provided guidance on workstation setup in a home working environment. So you could see that, the organization has also provided guidance. Right? So this is the way of managing that. Well, one thing I want to keep is safe from COVID. The other thing I say, I don't want you to develop any kind of musculoskeletal diseases of working at home as such. Point number 7, to protect the workers' mental well-being, which is already evidenced from scenario, during this new way of working from home, management have therefore asked each department to schedule short 30-minute computer-based team meetings, at least on a weekly basis, and with the intention to help workers maintain social contact. So that's again another way that I'm managing the risk, right? And risk of what? I don't want the mental health being affected. So to protect them, I'm using this sort of control measure of having this short meeting. So evidence. Point number 8, the virtual departmental meetings also serve as a forum by the workers to raise their concerns to the management, thus allowing for the hazards and the risks faced by the worker to be brought to the awareness of the managers. So that's another thing, that because I'm having this department meeting, it is serving as a forum to raise my concerns. Means there's some sort of consultation also happening, and through the consultation, right, whatever hazards, whatever risk is being faced by the worker is being brought to the awareness of the managers, so they can do something. They can manage those risks also. That if there's something else that is affecting you as a worker, let it be known to the manager, right? So this is one way also that I'm managing the risk. That bring it up. Bring up your concerns, bring up your issues, bring up your problems as such. Point number 9, alternatively, the management has considered to allow for one-to-one meetings. Apart from team meetings, management said, we'll have one-to-one meetings also that can be arranged for those reluctant to discuss things during team meetings, which is beneficial not only in managing the health risk, but also it can also safeguard your privacy concerns also. So two benefits are coming in. Right? So that is also the way of managing the risk, that mental risk is there, right? Health risk is there, that you are being affected as such, but you don't want to voice it out in the open. So management has also shown this, that I'm giving you an opportunity for one-to-one meetings. Then point number 10, like I've added as such, that working remotely from home is a form of lone working. Like example, if I'm a worker, right? And if I'm relocated to a city for the work, office is shut. I may be like in a place as such, like a rental place as such, and I might be lone person at home, right? I'm a lone worker. I don't have any assistance from workers as such, from my managers, anyone. Nor do I have any family support. So then I've stated that as the company has certification to an internationally recognized occupation health and safety management system standard, the above measures, like what are these measures as such, they also help to control the risk associated with lone working. Why? Because now management has to think that, people are going to work at home. They are lone workers now. From the office, they are now remotely working. So you're a lone worker. So also I'm thinking that, the management also has to manage its risk. So these control measures are also helping to control the risk with lone working. And then point number 11, by employing the health and safety advisor. So I'm added another point. As I said, there's no negative marking. Maybe the examiner may give a point for this, and like a mark for 10, or he may not give me for a point 10 as such, but that's fine. It's fine. But add it in. If you feel that, you found some bright ideas, add it in. So by employing the health and safety advisor, which I found that, the organization has a health and safety advisor who's actively and remotely monitoring the health and safety of its workers. The hazards and risks also being effectively controlled. Means I'm stating that, look, you can have a management system. You can have a health and safety management system, but you may not be having an organization, may not be employing a health and safety advisor just to save some money. But here the approach is that not only I'm having the management system, but I'm also having an advisor, right, which is actually you in the scenario, and you are taking active steps. You're actively and remotely monitoring, actively also doing it, because you're going to be part of the team meetings as such, and you're also remotely monitoring the health and safety of the workers. So that shows your approach, organization's approach, means you're working on part of the organization, that the hazards and the risks are being affected concurrently. So you're seeing, okay, what is the worker going to voice up? What is his issues? What is things? Maybe somebody's emailed you as such. Maybe somebody called you, video conferencing. So even that with the risk is being managed in the workplace as such. So this is how, for a 10-mark question, right? For a 10-mark question, this is how I would write the answer number 1 as such. So this is what I want to show you, like how I extracted the evidence and using each point of the evidence, thinking and writing and refining and polishing up my answer as such. Okay. So this is on answer number 1 as such, right? And okay. So coming on to now, we have discussed the question number 1, and now we are moving on to question number 2. As I said, task. What is a task? Task means it's a theme of the question, the task. All right. I'm just going to hide the controls. All right, lovely. So coming on to task number 2. Now, task number 2 states communicating health and safety. Effective communication is essential to positively influence health and safety culture. So communication influences culture. This is one thing that we learned it in IGC. Now, based on the scenario. Now, the earlier question was that you needed to support your answer using relevant information. But here, NEBOSH is stating that I want you to only base on the scenario, focus on the scenario only, but give me examples of how communication is used effectively by the organization as such. All right. Now, it's talking on communication. Now, as I said, when you write any kind of a question, first learn to extract information, right? Pick up, bring out the information as such. What is information? All right. So communication. Now, how we learned in IGC syllabus as such that NEBOSH has taught us that, okay, what are the 3 ways of communication, 3 methods, I would say. So we learned there's verbal communication, there is written communication, and there is graphical communication as such. So these are the 3 methods of communication, and we have to use, like, how is all the 3 methods are being used effectively by the organization. Means you have to justify, you have to show NEBOSH, like with examples. That means something focused onto the scenario. So coming on to the communication, right? Now, what are the 3 ways of communication, like our methods? One is verbal communication, then coming down, the other is written communication, and the third is graphical communication. So 3 communication. So when you get these type of a question as such, instead of first hunting for something as such, evidence as such, first take a paper or in the on the notepad or something. Okay, just write out. Okay, I need examples of communication. Means let's break it up. Let's make one section for verbal. Let's make one section for written, or let's make one section for graphical as such. First, make the sections out, or whether on paper or a notepad, wherever you want to do it as such, right? Then once you start, okay, verbal, then go to the scenario as such, start to top as such, all the way down, as to see wherever verbal communication is there. Where if I can first pick up, draw evidence, right? Even when you're getting a question which is based on the scenario, pick up evidence, bring that evidence out as such, right? So let's see on evidence. Okay, so coming to, let's take the first one, verbal. Now, what did I find? I found that, okay, the organization is making widespread use of technology to enable remote home working, including video conferencing facilities for business meetings and client contact. So what is that? Video conferencing, though there's technology, but verbal, like how we are now right now in this Zoom meeting as such, verbal communication, and effective, like I'm communicating this information to you. So verbal. Then the organization, I could find evidence that organization is scheduling short 30-minute computer-based team meetings, at least on a weekly basis. And intention is to help the workers maintain social contact with colleagues, but they are also forum to raise concerns. Okay, fine. So first, don't analyze the information. As long as it's verbal something, pick it up, put it there, right? So whether you put it on paper or in the computer, pick it up. Just first extract, bring it out. Then verbal. What else? One-to-one meetings. So that's verbal communication can be arranged for those reluctant to discuss things during team meetings. Then managing director calls the facilities manager, the human resources manager, and you to a meeting to plan for possible return. So meeting, like virtual meeting, verbal communication. Okay, bring that out also. Before the meeting, the managing director asks you and the facilities manager to carry out a specific virus risk assessment with input from the workers. So there is a meeting, right? And the managing director says, well, you do a risk assessment, but when you do a risk assessment, do it with input from the workers. So now when the workers representative is going to give you input, how is it going to give you? Verbal communication, right? Or it could also be written, but here, like I put it into verbal as such, because I don't know whether it's going to be written or the verbal as such. It's not very clearly specified. So I took the liberty to say, oh, let's put it into verbal as such. Fine. Okay. Then you decide also that the significant findings of the risk assessment will be shared with all workers through team meetings before the office returns. So when it's going to be team meetings, right? So definitely team meeting means what? In a team, verbal communication. So team meetings as such, right? So I'll put them so in verbal. So you can see first thing, what did I do? I broke up the communication to verbal, written, and graphical. And whatever I could find in verbal, extracted, brought all this information and put it in verbal. So I made one compartment for that. Okay, fine. Then coming on to written communication, right? Because I have to show examples of all methods of communication. So coming to written. Okay, so let's hop on to written. What did I find in the scenario? Like going from top down all the way, written. So there was a written procedure, guidance and best practice for home working, workstation setup and home working environment. Guidance has been distributed to all the workers. So yes, guidance has been made, written communication, plus this guidance has been distributed also. Fine. Okay, so up to that's the evidence. Then at the meeting, you and the facilities manager present the findings of risk assessment, site visit and research. So now written communication being presented in electronic media. So yet still it is written communication, but it's being presented. Then I could find in the scenario that a copy of the signed risk assessment will be placed on all the health and safety notice boards. So written communication on the notice boards. Okay, written communication being used effectively for promulgation of health and safety information. You see that way. So when you pick up evidence, first just ask, okay, is this a form of communication? Is it being used for something like that? Yeah, okay, pick it up and put it there like that. So step by step, you're forming your answers and you're detailing it as such. Then an email. So the minute you read email, what is email? Black and white, written communication. Okay, step by step approach to thoroughly washing hands, hygiene procedures will be sent to all workers. So email with all this thing being sent, okay, written communication. This will be supplemented by posters, which will be in all washrooms. Now you will say, poster is graphical communication, but the poster may not only have graphical communication, but the poster might even have graphical of washing, but also something written below. So I took the liberty and said that, okay, let the poster also be having some sort of written communication. It may not be fully graphical, like fully a safety sign, but also it may have written. So I took the liberty of putting it into written also, though I've put it later on into graphical. Then new hand sanitizing procedures will be written and relayed during remote computer team meetings and made available for reference on the company intranet. So written procedure, written, black and white, written. Then you are going to write a procedure for wearing personal PPE at work, especially when working in enclosed rooms. Yes, definitely procedure. Okay, written. Then you will also post additional social distancing measures to manage the transmission risk on the company intranet. So written procedure, social distancing measures. Okay, so that's written communication. The human resources manager will update the first aid policy, fire evacuation arrangements, other emergency procedures. So what is that? Written communication, that you are using this written communication for something like updating the policy, updating the evacuation arrangements, updating the emergency procedures. So written communication. And lastly, I could find from the whole scenario that I could find that you are going to also develop work instructions on social distancing measures. So written communication. So what did I do? Throughout the whole scenario, first I picked up all the verbal communication. Then I picked up everything related to written communication. And lastly, I said, okay, in the whole scenario, I could only find one evidence or one place as such where there is graphical communication. That means there is an email which, including detailed step-by-step approach to thoroughly washing hands and other hygiene procedures, will be sent to the workers, and this will be supplemented by posters. So I just extract the whole paragraph that this posters, and definitely posters could be some sort of graphic, means how to wash the hands. Maybe some photographs, and below it will be written, but at least it still forms in graphical communication as such that way. All right. Coming ahead, now going down a little bit. Now I've picked up all the sort of evidence as such, right? So this is all my evidence, the verbal, written, and graphical. But looking at the question as such, it states that I only have to write my answer which is based on the scenario, right? It's only based on this, means it's not asking me that use the supporting information, right? But I can use points, I can use some parts or something as such to formulate my answer, right? So NEBOSH is not going to look exactly onto that, do you have this supporting information? They're going to see that are your answers a little bit focused onto the scenario as such. Okay, so if I were to write the answer as such, I'm going to show you how I would like present the answer as such. Okay, so I'm just going to make the screen a little bit bigger so that those on the mobile as such, they can read it clearly as such. All right, okay, come, going ahead. So the following are the examples. As I said, any kind of answer that you get, right? It's a nice practice, a nice strategy as such. Nothing, it's not mandatory. It's not going to fetch you any marks as such, right? Because it's not a point of the answer, but it's something that I'm opening the answer with something, right? Just showing the example, like a nice professional look as such. So the following are the examples which demonstrate how communication is used effectively by the organization. So I'm opening the thing, I'm opening the answer stating that first I'm telling the example that look, from the scenario, I could observe, or we could observe, that the organization has demonstrated the effective use of all the three methods of communication: verbal, written, and graphical. So the examiner feels nice. Okay, that this candidate has first a clear understanding of the subject matter, that he has first identified what are the three methods: verbal, written, and graphical, and that you have stated that verbal has been made effective use of, written has been made effective use of, graphical has been made effective use of. Fine, right? So I've opened it up as such. But now, then I've broken up the answer into parts as such. So I've stated, okay, how verbal communication is being effective made use of. So then I stated everything about verbal communication. Then I've gone down a little bit and I said, okay, how is written communication being used of? Because I've taken, written my answers from the points extracted. And then I've lastly come to the graphical side of it. Means you can see like I've divided my answer into a very neat way as such. Like one on verbal, one on written, one on graphical. So I've shown some sort of a neat format as such. Right? Not necessary as such that you have to do it, but I like to do it that way. So examiner says, oh, I've covered everything on verbal as such. So how have I covered on verbal as such? So I'm just going to just increase it. Okay, verbal communication. So verbal communication is being effectively made use through the widespread use of technology to enable remote home working, including video conferencing facilities for business meetings and client contacts. So automatically, when I'm using video conferencing facilities for business meetings and client meetings, it is verbal communication. Also, the organization through verbal communication, how is the effective use made of? That I'm scheduling short 30-minute computer-based team meetings at least on a weekly basis for maintaining social contact among the colleagues. So that is another effective use of verbal communication. Then these computer-based team meetings are also serving as a forum to raise worker concerns to the management. So that's another thing that I'm effectively using them as a forum to raise any concerns. Also, I'm using verbal communication in the form of one-to-one meetings, and they are being arranged for those reluctant to discuss any kind of things during the team meetings. So it is allowing for what? Like when I'm doing one-to-one, I'm stating to the exam that look, verbal communication is there, but I'm also effectively using it for what? Direct consultation with the worker, one-to-one manager to worker as such, and also I'm maintaining the worker's privacy. So I'm also showing that both ways I'm achieving two things. I'm doing a direct consultation one-to-one, addressing his issues and also maintaining his workers' privacy as such. And coming to point number 5, virtual meetings are also held among the managerial staff to discuss the measures to be put in place to allow for a safe return of the worker into working from the office as such. So it is being used so that we can discuss, talk about, and come to some agreements on measures how to bring about safe return to the worker to the office as such. And lastly, computer-based team meetings are allowing for the health and safety advisor to carry out a specific risk assessment with input from the workers' representative. So I'm using verbal communication through computer-based team meetings, but I'm doing this, I'm like getting this from this verbal communication, I'm getting an input from the workers' representative to make my risk assessment. Means I'm using I'm involving worker participation. That is a benefit that is coming out. Means effective use of this communication I'm doing as such. So I've covered everything with verbal communication. So that's my one part. So I've taken that aside. Now come to the second part of the answer, written communication. So written communication is being effectively made use of through writing a procedure and guidance on best practice for home working, including workstation setup in a home working environment. And I've distributed that procedure also to all the workers via email. So written communication going through electronic media, but written communication as such. Then the risk assessments, they are a form of written communication, right? And they are also through the risk that I'm sharing them, I'm discussing with other managers and the senior management team, which is specific by the risk assessment. Then coming to point number 9, that the written communication in the form of latest government advice is being researched and used for the development of risk assessment and its associated countermeasures. Means I'm researching those written communication, I'm researching the government advice, and I'm using that advice for the development of my risk assessment and making appropriate countermeasures. Then point number 10, significant findings of the risk assessment is planned to be shared with all the workers, right? Evidence from scenario through team meetings before the office return. So I'm written communication, which is the findings of the risk assessment. I'm using it effectively with what basis? With the focus that I want to share it with all the workers in the team meeting before they come to the office. That means effective use of written communication I'm doing. I'm justifying, I'm showing as such. Point number 11, the use of health and safety media. Now I've talked about communication, but I said, okay, I want to even add the media as such. So health and safety media, all safety notice boards in the office is being considered for the placement of the specific virus risk assessment. So I'm stating that how I'm making best use of this written communication, that I'm also incorporating a certain media, like using the notice board to communicate this written information. So I'm showing the example, effective use of written communication through the use of notice boards. Point number 12, the use of email is being considered for circulating detailed step-by-step approach to thoroughly washing hands and other hygiene procedures such as hand sanitization. So I'm stating, okay, that these procedures are there, and I'm using electronic media like email to circulate or flow this written communication for this purpose of making people aware what are the steps of hand washing and other like hand sanitation procedures. Then also I'm showing the example that the intranet is being used or considered for posting additional, intranet is being used for considering posting additional social distancing measures to manage the transmission risk. So written communication being used through the channel of intranet for communication, effective use of written communication. Also, where else I found in the scenario that written communication is being used for updating the first aid policy, the fire evacuation arrangements, and other emergency procedures by the human resource manager. So these are the ways in which I have effectively used written communication and in the organization as such. And then I've stated lastly, I could only find one thing about graphical communication. So lastly, the organization has considered the use of graphical communication through, like I would say, the use of posters in all washrooms that provide detailed step-by-step approach to thoroughly washing hands and other hygiene procedures as such. So you saw how I justified the use of all the various methods of communication and how this forms of communication are being used in an effective way as such, right? And I broke it up. So you could see the formulation of the answer becomes easier once I have the points as such. So it's no sense wasting your time in the exam, because time is important. Writing each point of the answer by hunting the information up and down, up and down, up and down. You don't want to do that over and over again. So you only want to do this hunting of information, extracting the information one time of bringing out the evidence. Once I've brought the evidence, then I don't need a question paper much, right? I just need to know, okay, what is the question? I have the evidence, start making the answers, right? So that way, a systematic time management you can do as such in the examination as such. All right, going on to there. We finished question number 2. Now we come on to question number 3 as such. Now certain questions you might see, they come for 20 marks. Some questions might even come for 25 marks, right? So NEBOSH, there's no set as such that, oh, NEBOSH can't ask me a 25 mark question. Some days, who knows, NEBOSH can even come to a 30 mark question. Is anything stopping them? No, as such, right? Because they have so much of supporting evidence. So whenever you find large mark questions as such, normally the large mark questions will always be having, like they will be like, NEBOSH is stating that you will always have it as an application based question, and they will always be having like, you should support your answer where applicable using relevant information. So NEBOSH is actually making, it's not tough. Actually, these are more, you can see these are more scoring questions, because already the information is there in the scenario for you. NEBOSH only wants that you take that little effort, right, and just extract the information out first, and then use this information or put your comments, put your arguments as such, and join them together. So actually, the larger the mark questions is actually more scoring than, like you could say, that theory or like lesser mark questions. So these are more scoring questions. So if you get like a 20 mark question, you get a 25 mark question, and they are application based questions. Actually, it's like it is actually to your benefit, because you know that bulk of the answers, bulk of the points, bulk of all this evidence is already hidden in the scenario. All I need to do is just pull up, extract, right? Dig for that information as such, right? So that's only a skill that you have to use. Coming on to the task number 3, benefits of certification to an ISO Occupational Health and Safety Management System standard to the organization. Okay, what arguments could you use to help the managing director understand the benefits to the organization of maintaining the Occupational Health and Safety Management System certification? And 20 marks. So now NEBOSH is stating what argument you can use. You are the health and safety advisor. Now you have to argue, like you have to put forward certain arguments to the MD, managing director. Then what is the benefit of keeping the management system certification? Don't throw it away. And managing director wants to discard it. He said, no, it's an external cost, but you have to show some sort of bring arguments. And NEBOSH is stating, NEBOSH is actually making it simpler for you. That look, you support your answer, but use relevant information from the scenario as such. Okay, so I've put over here evidence. Now, what is the evidence as such? Okay, coming to evidence. All right. So, what are the evidence? Let's see. Or what have I picked up? Right. So sometimes it may not be that at the first reading you will be able to pick up all the evidence. Not necessary. So sometimes when you see it's a 20-mark question, where it's a 25-mark question as such, okay, take a one reading, maybe I got only 10 points. Take a second reading, maybe another 5 points have come up. Take a third reading, maybe another 3-4 points have come up. So sometimes picking up evidence, you may not get it at the first attempt, right? But if you would, like example, if you use a strategy like you take a ruler and a paper as such, or you go line by line as such, yes, slowly and slowly you'll be able to pick up that evidence also. So sometimes it may take one reading, or it may take second reading as such to pick up your evidence as such. All right. So what is the evidence I found? The arguments as to why I should have what is the benefit of having this or retaining this management system certification? Okay, coming here. Certification, like picked up first. This is all evidence, right? Just points. So certification to an internationally recognized occupational health and safety management system standard, something which over the years has made the organization more efficient. Okay, I picked that up. Oh, attracted some more important corporate clients, benefit to the clients. Okay, pick that up also. Make it as a separate point. Sometimes make your evidences into small points as such, right? Make it into more points. Don't try to club. If I can make it into 2 points, something different point. Because why? NEBOSH is going to give me 1 mark for each correct technical point. So separate it out. Then later on we can even club it, or like you see, or how we can arrange it as such. So separate. Make it as come down to the smallest parts as such of the evidences, I would say. Then you and all other office workers are following the current government instructions to work from home, or something to do with legal compliance. Think in your mind, oh yeah, legal compliance. Okay, put it there. Then it will reduce work-related incidents, near misses, accidents, ill health, property damage. Okay, put it there. Reducing and any possible investigations. Oh yeah, put it there. Reducing enforcement action. I don't want enforcement action. I don't want improvement notice. I don't want prohibition notice. I don't want prosecutions. Okay, let's put that in there. Reduce civil claims, compensation claims, financial costs. Oh, okay, come on, put it there. Why? Because people can fall ill, catch the virus, fall ill, and then they can sue the organization that, well, I came to the office, next day I caught COVID, and now the employees at fault because they didn't have control measures in place. So benefit. Yeah? So sometimes when you pick up the evidence also, think about it in your mind. Okay, can I use it as an argument as such? Going ahead, written a procedure and guidance on best practice for home working. Oh, of course, I can use that, including workstation setup and home working environment. Yeah, I can use that. Why? Because I have to think, something to do with reduction of musculoskeletal diseases, right? To enable remote home working, possible, right? Right, to keep the workers safe, so benefit. Including video conferencing facilities for business meetings and client contacts. Yeah, something to do with keeping the business also alive, competitive edge, something of that sort. Looking at workers' mental well-being, I can use that as an argument. And basis, I can find some evidence. Scheduling short meetings on weekly basis, so I can pick that as evidence. Forum to raise concerns. I can use that part of the statement. Something to do with consultation. Okay, let's put that in. Why? Consultation, legal requirement, necessary to do, right? And we could see from ILO C155, R164, right of the worker to be consulted. So when you know your theory, when you know your subject matter, then automatically once the subject matter is strong, extracting, as you read between the lines, you can easily focus and say, yeah, these are my evidences, right? So you can see how why I'm discussing is to bring out those things. And if you know your theory, picking up evidences becomes also quite simpler. It becomes easy for you to read between the lines as such. One-to-one meetings can be arranged for those reluctant to discuss things during the team meetings, something to do with consultation. Implementing a range of additional control measures to limit virus transmission. Yeah, I can use that also. Managing director asks you and the facilities manager to carry out specific virus risk assessment. Yeah, when I have a certified health and safety management system, that means I have to manage the risk, I have to manage the hazards, I need to have a risk assessment, I need to have a process for managing, right? So definitely risk assessment is a process which is being a requirement, or is a part of having a management system or policy as such. Then specific virus risk assessment with input from the workers. Input from workers, something to do with consultation, workers participation, element number, clause number 5, ISO 45001, worker participation. So let's put that in. So you see, sometimes you have to think, when I'm picking up evidence, where can I correlate it with the subject matter as such, So in the exam, you don't have much time, right? So unless you know your theory, unless you've revised, and that is why NEBOSH states in the learner guide, which I read, that you need thorough and robust preparation. So if you know your theory well, you'll be able to match the evidences and pick it out. It becomes it's just like a child's play then. Then the managing director calls the facilities manager, the human resources manager, and you to a meeting to plan for a possible return to work. Yeah, I can use that, right? So I can use that making the return to the work safer. Yeah, evidence. I can it helps me to develop workable measures. So you also visit an organization that is at a more advanced stage of implementing virus management measures. So I can think, something to do with benchmarking, maybe, yeah, and also adopting best industry practices. So you can, sometimes if you're using a paper and pen as such, you can even jot down or just put the points first, bring the evidence out as such. Then you found, researching the latest government advice on making workplaces like yours secure against the virus. Oh, yeah, I can ask that. That is a benefit. Significant findings of risk assessment to be shared, right? So communicating information. All right, I can use that. Copy of the SAN risk assessment placed on the health and safety notice boards. Yeah. Promulgation of information. Benefit maybe. Cleaning company contracts. So, okay, benefiting the organization plus helping me to manage my contractors means fulfill my responsibilities on to keeping the workplace, keeping the contractors also safe. So yeah, I can use that as an argument. So extract. So when you take some words as such, ask yourself in the mind, can I use it? What can I think about it as such? That way. Then include frequent and extensive cleaning of the office. Oh yeah, I can use that also. Email including detailed step-by-step approach with thoroughly washing hands, other hygiene procedures sent to all workers. Yeah. Could be. This will be supplemented by posters which will be in all the washrooms. New hand sanitizing procedures will be relayed during computer meetings and made available for reference at the company intranet. Yeah, okay, I can use that also. Developing work instructions on social distancing measures. Yeah, new safe systems of work, helping me, right? Implementing them, making them company procedures, right? You will write a procedure for wearing PPE at work, especially when working in enclosed rooms. Oh yeah, definitely. Safe systems of work, new procedures. Posting additional social distancing measures to manage transmission risk on the intranet. Updating the first aid policy, fire evacuation arrangements, emergency procedures. Reporting requirements on any virus-related health cases to the government authorities will need to be introduced and communicated. So yeah, I can talk about legal compliance. Some point comes, it will help me to maintain some sort of legal compliance. Reporting requirement, reporting to government means if I report means I'm maintaining legal compliance. So I can use that as an evidence. That is a point. Then you as the facilities manager volunteer to carry out a detailed analysis and corresponding update of the health and safety management system. Yeah, I can use that also, right? So having the system, it will help me for continual improvement for review as such. I can use that as a point. Emphasis on training. Oh yeah, training is required. Competence development. Training is a right of the worker. ILO. So yeah, I can use that as a point. I'm using presentations, workshops. Supervisors and managers effectively implement and actively monitor arrangements through scheduled behavior safety observations and safety tools. Active monitoring. Yeah. So the safety management system is helping me to also use active monitoring methods. I can use that as a point. Updated discipline procedure. Yeah, I could think of that, right? I could enforce for enforcement of my procedures. Maybe it will help me. Then also I'm thinking, this line is that this applies especially to young workers. Now NEBOSH has used the word especially to young workers. So something to do with the words, young worker, vulnerable people, management system, plus responsibility by law, looking after my vulnerable people. So I can use that as a point. Okay, let's put that in the evidence. You also mentioned the need for revised policies for visitors and control of contractors. Yeah, I can do that also, right? Contractor control under the safety management system. Managing director suggests that you and the facilities manager update the policies before the next meeting. Yeah, I can use that also, right? For that, updating the policies. Frequent audits, I found, when I'm having a health and safety management system, I need to also do frequent audits required for my certification for third party. And if it is done, I've found that if it's done properly, by many, they are outweighed by many benefits, including reducing overall cost across the boundaries. And also the organization conducts regular workplace inspections. So active monitoring, safety inspections, active monitoring. So what you saw, what did I do? Over a 20-mark question, I first picked up all the evidences, all the points, right? As I said, sometimes I might take one reading, sometimes I might take two reading as such, but you need to do it over and over. And remember, I want to change your outlook. I say that when you get 20 or 25-mark question, right, you already have these points, just have to formulate them into the answers. So you're already for your pass mark of 45, you're already getting a straight, like a jump that, already halfway through the pass mark, I'm already getting it through one 20-mark question. So you should actually be hoping that, give me two 20-mark questions, I'm already jumped, right? Coming close to the pass mark. And whatever else is bonus. So actually these are more scoring questions as such, right? Because if you use the evidence correctly and if you use the comments as such, you're already getting a straight boom jump as such. So this is the strategy. Change your outlook. Don't think it's tough. think it is that, oh, NEBOSH has given me to help me to pass as such. So change that outlook as such, in seeing the approaching the question, I would say. Okay, let's come to the answers as such, right? So let's zoom in and come to the answers. Okay. So again, same way that the way whenever I have an answer as such, it's always nice to open the answer using some part of the question. So the benefits to the organization of maintaining Occupational Health and Safety Management System certification are as follows, and these will be used to help convince the managing director, right? So these are the arguments that I'll use them as such. So certification number 1, certification to an internationally recognized Occupational Health and Safety Management System standard has made the organization a more efficient one in the past, which I could see evidence, right? Which made it in the past as such. But continuing to maintain the Occupational Health and Safety Management System certification will also enable, I'm saying, it will enable the organization to efficiently continue to manage the new evolving risks. So one, it was stated that, it helped the organization to be very efficient in the past. That's one thing. But now if I have the certification and I continue using it, I continue maintaining it, it will also help me to manage the risk. And it's a new risk, like pandemic was something quite new, COVID was something quite new. So it will help me to continue. So I can use that as one point, right? So evidence on scenario, that past efficiency, but also putting my comment and stating that now it will help you for future efficiency also, right? So you see how I'm using that. So little bit of thinking sometimes is little required, like conceptual thinking as such. It's not complicated as such, just little thinking as such. Then maintaining an occupational health and safety management system will continue to attract important corporate clients and customers. Evidence on scenario that in the past it has helped me to get clients as such, right? Attracted some important corporate clients, and you can see information from attract important corporate clients and customers, and going all the way up here. Just showing you from one of them as such, and I took this point as such, right? Coming here, where is it going? Come on. Attracted some important corporate clients. So take one point at a time. And then, from each point, start formulating the answer. So I found that in the scenarios written that because I was certified, the organization was certified to that health and safety management system, right? And it helped to get some clients in the past. So now I can use the same point and say that if you maintain it, once you open the office as such, you will get more clients, because now everybody will want insurance now. After this COVID thing happened, I want COVID insurance. I am having a policy, but I want to add COVID insurance. I want to supplement to that as such. So I can use that sort of thinking and saying that, it can help me to bring more clients. Once I open the office, I'll get more clients as such. Right? So I can use that as such. Okay, coming back over here. Alright, so maintaining an occupational health and safety management system certification will continue to attract important corporate clients and customers when they observe as to how well the organization is managing its health and safety risk upon resuming working operations at the office. Once you open the office, everybody comes to know that you are now started, because government guidance has said everybody returns to office. So definitely in a pandemic or anything as such, people will come to an office and see, okay, how well you're managing social distancing, hand sanitization, all these things. So when they see you're managing the risk so well in the organization, when they see you still having the certification, it will help you to bring more business. It's a benefit. So I'm telling them, indeed, it's going to benefit you as such. Coming ahead, it will enable the organization also to continue to maintain legal compliance with what? With all the current and newer government instructions. Because why we found in the scenario that day by day, new science, new information is coming. So new government instructions might come. It will help you to maintain compliance at the end of the day. It will also help to reduce work-related incidents, like any kind of near misses, accidents, because now people are going to come back to the office. Right? So again, the near misses, accidents, ill health, property damage might happen. So it will help me to reduce those things, even when the workers return back to working the office. So it will help me with that. In the past, it has helped me, but now when you come back with your changed working practices also, right, with social distancing and all these other things, it will help to reduce the work-related incidents. Then by helping to reduce the work-related incidents, what is affecting it, especially from contracting the virus and preventing its spread, it will help prevent any kind of direct and indirect. I apologize. I missed the word indirect financial cost to the organization, right? So it's direct and indirect, right? So my apologies for that. Coming on to point number 6, it will help to also reduce the financial costs arising from possible investigations, right? Now, in case something goes wrong, investigations, so it helps to reduce costs and the implementation of any kind of remedial measures towards work-related incidents. So it will help to reduce the cost, because you're already having a system in place, you're already having some controls in place. Maybe just to add one more or two more controls, and then close out the investigation. It will reduce the cost as such, and it will also help prevent and also may reduce any kind of enforcement action Like, it will help you to prevent getting an improvement notice or a prohibition notice. Why? Because now when new government guidance comes, enforcement agents might suddenly pop into your workplace and say, oh, are you following this? Right? So they will check whether you're having any kind of non-compliance to health and safety as such. Right? And all this legislation gets amended from time to time. So this having the certification will prevent any kind of enforcement action. So another benefit I'm telling the MD. Then point number 8, it will help in the prevention or reduction of civil claims on the workers. Why? Because now the workers were safe at home. But the minute they come to the office, next day you can catch COVID if you don't like sanitize your desk, your chair, your table, your doors as such, right? So if the worker falls sick, you'll say, oh, I came to the workplace, employer told me from next Monday come to the work. And the minute I came to work, same day only I caught COVID. So it will help so when you have a system as such, when you have these control measures, it will help in the prevention or reduction of civil claims, especially arising from ill health on contracting the virus, and also from musculoskeletal disease from continued use of displacement equipment. Some people might come to the office, some people might still be working at home. So I have to manage both the risk of managing the people in the office also, and some people who are still doing remote working. So those who are going to do remote working, I have to think about their musculoskeletal diseases, any affecting from continued use of equipment, plus I have to look out for my workers. So dual benefit, right? So reduction of civil claims from there also. Then it will also assist in the development and implementation of written procedures on what? On best practice for home working, such as workstation setup in a home working environment, evidence on scenario, and the eventual return for the workers. So it's going to help me by having the certification, by continuing to maintain it, will help me in development. Then I've stated like an additional point as such that, as I said, NEBOSH states that you can support the answer where applicable using relevant information, but wherever applicable. So I added one point in there that in event of a second wave of resurgence of the virus, suppose like while you came to work and again the COVID started up, right? And again you're starting home working as such. So event of a second wave of resurgence of the virus and delayed return to the work means maybe the government said, okay, now again go back to house working, home working as such. It will enable the organization to continue managing the workers' health and safety from home working also. So that is what the benefit. Maybe after 1 month of working in the office, again the virus spreads out, right? Again you have to come back to home working. So at least it will help you that time. Then point number 11, it will enable the organization to effectively manage the workers' mental well-being, right? First is physical well-being and so mental well-being, and it will help to put into place certain kind of measures to safeguard the mental health, especially when working remotely from home, lone working. So I'm showing the example, hey, I've considered mental health, but also coming through lone working, right? Because he's away from his usual workplace. So that's another point. Then point number 12, it will enable the workers' concerns to be raised, raised, recorded, and effectively resolved when working from home and upon office return to work. Now, when you're having a management system, right? So definitely people are going to raise their concerns. They will have a complaint book or through team meetings or through health and safety committee meeting. Once you come back to office, we'll have a health and safety committee meeting. So at least by having the system in place, right? Having the certification and having the system in place, workers' concerns will be raised, they will be recorded, they will be resolved as such, right? So definitely it will benefit. Then point number 13, it will also help the organization to implement a range of additional control measures to limit the virus transmission. Why? Because it's stated that as the science evolves and new official guidance is released by the authority. So evidence on scenario that it's stated that as the science evolves, new guidance is coming. Now when new guidance comes, I have to follow that guidance. So to follow that guidance, right, I need to put into place those control measures, and to effectively put this place in place those control measures and implement them, the management system will help me, the policy will help me. Point number 14, it will enable the organization to carry out a specific virus risk assessment and keep reviewing the same as the circumstances require. So on one hand, it will help me to make a risk assessment, but on the other hand, it is also helping me to keep the risk assessment live, reviewing it, keep it up to date, right? And thus, accordingly, also not only keep the risk assessment up to date, but in turn, eventually, it is going to also help me to fulfill legal compliance. So that benefit is coming, eventual benefit is coming for legal compliance also. Point number 15, it will enable the workers to effectively participate in the development of suitable and sufficient risk assessments. So if I have a management system, workers' participation, important, right? So I have to, like when the audit happens, auditor must ask, how are you demonstrating effectively the workers' participation? Show me some examples. I'm sitting there, but I'm making risk assessments, but I'm also involving the workers' input, right? And thus I'm able to meet legal compliance and compliance with the requirements of the standard, because even the standard like ISO 45001 states that there has to be leadership and there has to be workers' participation in the health and safety management system. So both things, I'm able to show compliance with the standard, right, which is helping me to keep my certification alive. On the other hand, I'm showing that workers' participation in making the risk assessment, and also I'm showing legal compliance. So two benefits, right? So I've combined it into one point as such, right? So it's fine, no problem. Because why? When the examiner gives you a mark, he's going to give you a mark for legal compliance. Okay, one thing for legal, but you have repeated the legal compliance again as such, another point as such. But at least you'll see that, oh, it is also helping me. I can give you a mark again for legal compliance because, you know, there are several points for legal compliance, but at least you have to give a mark that at least you're able to maintain the requirements, you are able to fulfill the requirements of the standard upon which you have based a management system, right? So certification will, like, you know, you are able to keep the certification alive until unless you fulfill all the requirements of the standard as such. Coming to point number 16, it will allow for the active worker participation through consultation, such as by sharing significant findings of risk assessment. And you can say consultations are like a requirement as such. Like, you know, you want to have it as such. You know, it's a requirement. Point number 17, it will help improve the workers' morale, right? Especially when working from home, and it will motivate them to return to the office, given the various additional control measures that will be put into place. Now, you saw from the scenario that the management is trying to put this control measure, that control measure into place. So when the workers are seeing this, hearing about it, receiving the emails, coming, attending the team meetings, their morale of already working from home goes up. So benefits of productivity. So the same efficiency work which they were working in the office, now it is coming at home also. Another thing is that they will be more, when the office opens, when they say, okay, now it's time to come to the office next week, they're already motivated as such. Yeah, I know, because organizations taken so many measures as such to keep the environment safe, so that when I come to the workplace, it's a safe workplace for me, right? So benefit. Point number 18, it will help the organization to benchmark its health and safety performance with others in the industry. So that now I can see how is my performance with others in the industry of the same nature of the business, same staff strength. So helps me for benchmarking, improvement of health and safety performance. Point number 19, it will help the organization effectively manage contractors. Now I saw in the scenario that there was contractors. Given that the organization has extended a cleaning company contract to include more frequent and extensive cleaning of the office. So definitely I have some sort of duty of care towards my contractors. And when I'm having a certified health and safety management system, contractor management is going to be a part of it. It's going to be one of the arrangements to manage a contractor. So it's going to help me in that. Tomorrow, I don't want any kind of claims from the contractors that, oh, we came to this workplace, we were cleaning the office and we ourselves got COVID. You know, so also helps you in that. Point number 20, it will help the organization to effectively communicate health and safety information through the use of verbal communication, written communication, and graphical communication methods, thus positively influencing upon the culture of the organization. So that's a benefit, that you are able to effectively make use of all the methods of communication, and by making use of all the methods of communication, also you're able to influence the culture of the organization. So added benefit. Also, point number 21, it will help in the update of the existing first aid policy, fire evacuation arrangements, and other emergency procedures. So it will help you in the updates of your arrangements also, and the policy, certain individual policies within the whole health and safety policy. So it is helping in that also, keeping it up to date. Point number 22, it will assist the organization in introducing and implementing reporting requirements for any virus-related ill health cases to government authorities, and it will help you in meeting your legal compliance. So that is also another benefit, that once you're having a management system certification, that means I will ensure that I'm having legal compliance in all aspects, right? So here, the examiner might give me a mark. Why? Because it is legal compliance, but I'm having supporting information from scenario, right? So you can see I've kept it as a separate point, that yes, showing legal compliance, one with the consultation or one with following the guidance, but the other, I'm showing legal compliance through reporting requirements, evidence on scenario. So definitely it's a valid point for a mark as such. Coming to point number 23, it will enable the organization effective planning towards mitigation of health and safety risks. Now we could see planning as one of the clauses of ISO 45001 management standard. So it helps in my planning for mitigation means or reducing the risk in the workplace. So it helps in benefit for that also. It will enable, so as I said, here there was planning, because we could see in the scenario that the managing director was planning to return to the work and put into place certain control measures. So evidence some scenario that there was effective planning going on. So by having a certification management system certification or management system in the place, it is helping you towards planning. So I'm using that planning as like an evidence on scenario that is helping me for effective planning. Point number 24, it will enable the organization to impart information, instructions, and training to the workers. And also by giving this information, instructions, training, how to keep yourself safe from COVID as such, what sort of measures. It will also, added benefit is what? It will also build upon the competence. Now they know how to do, what to do as such, right? Point number 25, it will assist the supervisors and managers to effectively implement and actively monitor the new arrangements. So when I'm having these new arrangements in the place, I also need to implement them effectively. I also need to monitor them. And how I can do that? By having scheduled behavioral safety observations in the workplace. So the management system will help me by when I have this kind of active monitoring measures being put into place, right? Point number 26, it will require the managers to conduct safety tours of the workplace, thus demonstrating the commitment and leadership towards health and safety, and accordingly improving upon the workplace conditions along with improving worker consultation. So I'm setting both things, that you are going to do a safety tour. That except that point, it will, because you're having a certification in the management system, you are required to do a safety tour. And by doing the safety tour, you will show your commitment, you will show your leadership, right? You will also, you will see that what are the workplace conditions, you will improve on that. And also added benefit is that you will also improve on worker consultation. So a lot of things. So with one thing, these are the various benefits, and I've combined all of them into one point of safety tour as such. That way. Point number 27, it will enable the organization in meeting its moral and legal responsibilities. One is moral responsibility, another is legal responsibility also in protecting the health and safety of vulnerable workers. Why? Because in the evidence, in the scenario, so young workers were there. So vulnerable worker, as I said, never forget your vulnerable worker. So you have not only a moral responsibility towards them, right? But by looking, because they are young, they don't have that maturity, they don't have that sense of a very clear sense of hazards and risk. They like to overact and prove themselves in the workplace. So you also have a responsibility to look after them, plus a legal responsibility to look after your vulnerable workers. Means you also need to have a young worker risk assessment, right, under UK law as such. So it is helping you with that. Point number 28, it will enable the organization to conduct regular workplace inspections so as to identify any hazards or unsafe conditions, and to help you to put into place any kind of preventive measures or corrective actions. So they're helping you benefit. Point number 29, it will also allow for external audits to be conducted by third parties, right? Because you're having a health and safety management system, definitely external audits is going to be a part of that system, right, to keep your certification. And because you're having third-party people coming in, it will help you to identify any kind of weaknesses in a management system and correct this accordingly. Because a third-party external person coming with a fresh pair of eyes is coming, right, and looking at how you are managing health and safety risk. So it is helping you identify the weaknesses which you may not be able to identify in the management system. Point number 30, it will enable the employer in fulfillment of the moral responsibility towards the workers by providing them a safe workplace. So I've added a point, okay, showing a moral responsibility. Point number 31, I could find discipline procedures. So discipline procedures can be effectively implemented by to prevent any kind of intentional breaches of company rules and regulations. So by having the system in place, right? And when I have a system in place, means I'm going to have procedures, rules, and regulations. So discipline procedures was an evidence. So I said, okay, if I have a system in place, if I have a management system, I can update my discipline procedures, make them better, so that I can prevent any kind of intentional breaches. Means I want to have strict enforcement of rules and regulations. Point number 32, the organization can put into place procedures for continual improvement, right? All the time improving as such, right? So thus showing continual improvement. Point number 33, roles and responsibilities of staff at all levels can be effectively defined and updated. Organization section. So I said, okay, let's focus on organization section. Why? Because in the scenario, human resource manager was told, you update this. Health and safety manager was told, you update this. Facilities manager was told, you update this as such. So by having a system in place, the roles and responsibilities can be effectively defined and they can be updated now, because now there is change in working practices upon return to the office. So I'm also focusing something related to my organization section. So I've even added that. And then I've lastly closed. I found 33 points as such, right? 20 was the marks, but because I picked up so much evidence, all these kind of points as such, I could find so many points, right? So sometimes, you can find a lot of points, right? So in closing, I said, okay, in closing, the continued maintenance of the occupational health and safety management system certification will help the organization also. I'm closing the answer by saying that, look, by doing all of this, finally, one last benefit is that you will develop a positive safety culture as such, right? So you could see that when you spend time and extract evidence, right? When you spend that little time, you are making sure that you pick up as much as possible, use them as points, and definitely you are making sure that I want to achieve that full mark to get that highest mark as such, So it is to your benefit as such. All right, let's go ahead. Let's move to the next question. Next question is task number 4 as such. Okay, applying further control measures. So based on the scenario, that means application based question, but nothing to do with, I don't need much, I need the evidence, I need that thing, but I don't have to support it as such. So good enough. Okay, happy. One is what is question number 3? Question number 3 was asking me to support. So I had to be very careful over here, right? Because I needed the mark. So when I need the mark, and when it's 20 marks means I have to be more careful in those kind of questions, because my 1 mark is going to be on supporting evidence. But the same 20 mark question, when I can see over here, right? When I go down all the way here, that here NEBOSH has been a little bit lenient. It's allowed me to breathe a little bit, right? And said, okay, based on the scenario, I'll make your life a little bit simpler, right? So based on the scenario, what administrative measures are the organization planning to take that would limit the spread of the virus and keep the workers safe and healthy as such, right? And 20 marks question. So on one hand, they made it a little stringent for you by saying, I want supporting evidence. Other hand, they said, I'm letting you let it breathe. So it's now benefit 20 marks, 40 marks means you're very close to the passing mark, right? So it's very beneficial actually when you get these large because why? It's all the points are there in the scenario. So hope and pray, that you get more 20, 25 marks, right? Added benefit as such. Okay, so what did I pick up, right? So what are the administrative measures? Now, administrative measures, when you look in the question as such, it was written in italics. So it was told only focus on administrative. There was some engineering controls, but NEBOSH said, I don't want those. So that is why they put this administrative measures. When you look in the question paper as such, it was in lightly italics. So NEBOSH is trying to hint at you, keep your mind only to administrative. Don't keep a mind to anything else as such, right? So that is why sometimes I put these little subtle clues as such, right? Just to keep you keep you on track as such. That way. Okay, coming ahead. So the management team picked up the evidence. Management team have therefore asked each department to schedule short 30-minute computer-based team meetings on a weekly basis. Admin measure, yeah, definitely. Means what is admin measure? Always ask yourself, okay, when I can't find admin measures, ask yourself, what is the philosophy behind each control? So admin measure means what? Changing the way I am working. So sometimes when you can't find the evidence, ask yourself, what I can find in the scenario which is helping me or which is moving me to change the way people work. So sometimes when you can't find, right, go back one step and say, okay, what is the philosophy of admin measures? Right, changing the way. Means the way I was working before now is what is something now changing the way I'm working. So when you focus on the philosophy, automatically you'll be able to find, I was not doing this before, but now I'm doing this now. Now I'm doing this now. Now I'm doing this now. So that kind of thing of catching up becomes easier to extract information that way. Alright. So the management team have therefore asked each department to schedule short 30-minute computer-based team meetings, at least on a weekly basis. Alternatively, one-to-one meetings can be arranged for those reluctant to discuss things during the team meetings. Something new, changing the way people are working. One-to-one meetings now. Okay. So you see, when I look into the philosophy, now you are saying, this is something new. This is something which I was not doing before, but now I'm doing it. So changing the way, so admin measures. So sometimes focus onto the philosophy if you get some sort of a question like that. What is the underlying philosophy between a control? Then the managing director calls a facilities manager, the human resource manager, and you to a meeting to plan for a possible return to office. Yeah, something like before I could just walk into the office, but now I can't do that. Now I need to plan even to go to my old workplace. So yeah, I can say, yeah, that's also something new, something I'm doing, changing the way I'm working now. Before the meeting, the managing director asks you and the facilities manager to carry out a specific risk assessment, virus assessment, with input from the workers. Yeah, I was never doing this before, but now something new as such. To help develop workable measures, you also visit an organization that is at a more advanced stage of implementing. So I'm looking at how other people are managing the risk, right? So admin measures, changing the way I'm working. Why? Because if he's doing something like that, and if I implement his measure, means what? I've changed my way of working. So that is an admin measure. So you can see how I'm thinking. I'm taking each point and I'm asking my mind, is it changing the way I am working? Right? So I'm not focusing on that words admin measure. I'm focusing on what? Changing philosophy. What is underlying philosophy? So you see how NEBOSH wants you to think a little bit as such, Perfect. Next, you also research the latest government advice on making workplaces like yours secure against the virus. Means I'm going to implement the government advice, changing the way I'm working. Yes, definitely. Significant findings of the risk assessment will be shared with all the workers through team meetings before the return. Yeah, changing the way. That means I'm telling these are the findings of the risk assessment. You're being made aware, and now you have to follow them. Changing the way you're working. Copy of the signed risk assessment will be placed on all health and safety notice boards, making use of health and safety media, making them aware what are the things on the notice board, read them, follow them, implement them, changing the way I'm working. Organization will extend the cleaning company contract to include more frequent and extensive cleaning of the office. Yeah, changing the way. Now before there was cleaning and contractors were there, but now what is the thing? See the word more frequent means changing the way. Earlier normal cleaning, now more frequent cleaning, and now also NEBOSH has added extensive cleaning. So now more detailed, more thorough cleaning means change the way you're working from what you was before. Now it is different as such. Okay. So you can see how I'm using, and I'm also putting some points. Oh, it's going to be using of contractors and cleaning measures. So I've just put something to do with contractors, something to do with cleaning measures. Okay, let's put that in one section as such. Okay. Coming ahead, and even including detailed step-by-step approach to thoroughly washing hands and other hygiene procedures will be sent to all workers. Oh yeah, definitely change the way. Supplemented by posters between washrooms. When people look at the posters in the washroom, how to wash my hands, changing the way people are working. Yeah, definitely. So see, thinking as such. New hand sanitizing procedures will be written and relayed during remote computer team meetings and made available for reference on the internet. Yeah, changing the way it's working. Developing work instructions on social distancing measures, changing the way I'm working, right? But now, why I put over here, one is work instructions, developing work instructions, but social distancing, right? Social distancing is what is it? You have to think, social distancing is not an admin control. Social distancing is an engineering control. Why? Because what is engineering control? What is the philosophy of engineering control? Isolating the people from the hazard. We learned that, right? So isolating from people from the hazard. Now say suppose a worker, a client or a customer is coming to the workplace. He is a carrier of the virus. Means he's a hazard. That means he has the potential to harm my workers, correct? So he has a potential to harm my workers. So that means I have to isolate from him. I have to keep some distance from him. So social distancing is an engineering control because I'm isolating him. Oh, stand 2 meters away from me. So when I'm isolating myself from the hazard that you might be hazardous to me, that you might be a carrier of the virus. So that is engineering. But I'm developing the work instructions on the social distancing. So developing means I'm changing the way I'm working, that now we were standing next to each other. But now I'm telling the instructions is that now we have to stay away from each other. Right? So see how in one point there is admin measure and there is engineering measure. Right? So I'm being able to identify. And in your stated, I only want admin measures. I don't want engineering measures. Right? So sometimes you have to think a little bit. Okay, that how it is admin and measure, how it's blended as such beautifully. Next, you will write a procedure for wearing personal protective equipment at work, especially when working in enclosed rooms. So definitely now changing the way I'm working, that I need to wear a mask when I'm in the office. So yeah, admin measure. You will post additional social distancing measures to manage transmission risk on the internet. Yeah, admin, changing the way I'm working. Human resources manager will also update the first aid policy, fire evacuation arrangements and other procedures. Yeah. So now different procedures, right? Updating the policy means what? Changing the way I'm working. So admin measures. You also indicate that reporting requirements for any virus-related ill health cases to government authorities will need to be introduced, communicated, and implementing them. So changing the way I'm working, that now, in case somebody gets infected with the virus, but in case there was some sort of a medical emergency earlier, I would never have to report to the government. I would send him to the doctor, I would send him to the hospital, I would give him first aid. But now, because of this situation, I have to report to the government authorities that, oh, now this worker is infected with virus, and to report means changing the way I'm working, right? So sometimes when you don't get this admin measures, ask yourself, take a step back, take a break, come back again and say, okay, what can help? What can I find that is changing the way I'm working as such, right? Then these things, these clues will stand out with you in the scenario as such. That way. Then you and the facilities manager volunteer to carry out a detailed analysis and corresponding update to the management system. Before it was not required, we could do it like now, but now the factors have changed, right? And doing that means, okay, I can use that as something based on the scenario. All those at the meeting agreed that the implementation of the modified procedures based on risk assessment will lead acknowledgement, understanding, and application. Means now we have to work different. Modified procedures means change the way of working. I can use that as evidence. Now there will be emphasis on training. Now new additional training has been introduced with regard to this. So working, so training is being given for working differently. Yeah, I can use that with evidence. Expectation that supervisors, managers will in fact implement and monitor the new arrangements through behavioral safety observations. Behavior will change now. Safety tools will happen more frequently, maybe. So, okay, I can use that evidence. And the human resources manager naturally links this with an updated discipline procedure. Oh, yeah, definitely. Now, earlier the discipline procedures were not so harsh, but now the discipline procedures are maybe quite harsh. That means I'm changing the way I'm working. That now, if you do this, I'm going to have a harsher procedure. Updating my discipline procedure means changing the way. Means I have to be more cautious. I have to be more careful. So I could use that as point. Yeah. Then you respond to this by suggesting that different changes, significant changes, the organization will require time for the workers to adopt. There will be need time for acceptance, right? The changing of the behavior, becoming embedded in the culture. So I said, yeah, I can use that point. Let's extract it. Let's see. Maybe it will come helpful to me later. And especially applies to young workers, vulnerable people, and changing the attitude, changing the working way, changing the outlook of young workers. Yeah, I could use that as evidence as such. And lastly, also mention the need for revised policies for visitors and controls. So now I have to think about the way I was handling the visitors and the way I was handling the contractors. Now I am changing the way. Now I tell them, visitors, social distancing, use the hand sanitizer, wear the mask before coming into my office. So changing the way I'm working, that I'm enforcing these upon those people also who are coming in my workplace. So I said, okay, why not use that as also evidence for that, for the answer. So these are my points. Now, once I've got my points clear in the mind as such, so I can formulate my answer as such, right? So coming on to the answers. So the organization is trying to take the following administrative measures that would limit the spread of the virus and keep the workers safe and healthy. So I've opened it. As I said, any answer, open it with a part of the question. Point number 1. The management has asked each department to schedule short 30-minute computer-based team meetings, at least on a weekly basis. Change the way of working, admin measure. Yes, definitely. It has also arranged for one-to-one meetings for the workers reluctant to discuss things. Different thing. Yeah, definitely admin measure. In order to develop workable measures, organization is considering the review and adaptation of best practices of an organization that is at a more advanced stage. So, changing the way of working, developing working procedures. Organization is planning to adopt the latest government advice on making the workplace secure against the virus. Yeah, definitely. Planning, so because see, focus on the question. It is not stated that what has been implemented. Right? It is stated what are the administrative measures the organization is planning. So you have to also, reading the question, have to think in the mind and say that I don't have to pick up anything that has already been implemented. I have to pick up the admin measures which the organization is planning. So you could see in the scenario, the organization will do this, will do that, will do this. Will means intention, means a plan. So these are also, those words also like signposts. They are like blinking to you that can you pick those up? And there were plenty like that as such. So please be careful that when you see admin measures, read the question carefully and see what is it being asked in the question. Only planning means examiner will only give you the marks for measures that have been planned, not have been implemented. So be very careful on that also. Certain times, that's why I say, I tell the candidates, read the question over and over, understand, break it up into small parts and see as such. So that's why you see most of the answers which will seed out is more focused on the planning stage. Will do it, intentions to do it, thoughts about doing it, as such that way. Okay, coming ahead, just, all right. Let's make it a little bit, zoom in a little bit for candidates, for people on the mobile as such. All right. So point number 4, the organization is also planning to adopt the latest government advice on making the workplace secure against the virus. Planning, right? Using the latest advice. So admin measures. Senior management has asked for a specific risk assessment to be developed with input from workers. Asked to develop, right? So definitely planning as such. It has planned that significant findings of the risk assessment will be shared with all the workers through team meetings before the office return. Admin measure. It has planned that a copy of the signed risk assessment will be placed on all the health and safety notice boards in the office for the awareness of the workers. Admin measure on the planning stage. It will extend the cleaning company contract to include more frequent and extensive cleaning of the office so as to keep the workplace safe. Admin measures. It plans to send via email detailed step-by-step approach to thoroughly washing hands and other hygiene measures. Point number 9, it plans to make use of posters, graphical communication / safety signs. I'm showing the examiner, hey, I know, understand posters is practical communication. So examiner feels a little happy. Oh, you have considered that also, right? So it plans to make use of posters by putting them up in all the washrooms, detailed step-by-step approach to thoroughly washing hands and other hygiene procedures. Point number 11, it intends that new hand sanitizing procedures will be displayed and they will be relayed during remote computer team meetings and made available for reference on the internet. So planning as such, admin measures. It plans to develop work instructions on social distancing measures. So I'm already stating plans to develop the instructions, all right, for measures as such. But I'm not stating that social. It plans to implement social distancing, because implementing social distancing would be like putting into place engineering measures. But I'm stating planning to only develop the work instructions. So I'm stating on admin measures as such, right? Admin measures for admin measures are like instructions for the implementation of engineering measures. So you can see it's a little subtle thing that you have to focus on as such. It has planned to develop a procedure for wearing PPE at the work, especially when working enclosed rooms in the office. It plans to make use of the internet for posting additional social distancing measures to manage the transmission risk of the virus. It has planned to update the first aid policy, fire evacuation arrangements, and other emergency procedures by delegating this to the human resources manager. So planning admin measures. It has planned to introduce, communicate, and implement the reporting requirements for any virus-related ill health cases to the government authorities. It has planned to carry out a detailed analysis and corresponding update of the health and safety management system by delegating this task to the health and safety advisor and the facilities manager, who have themselves volunteered to do it as such. So I'm also saying, I would have put it, I missed the bracket as such. Bracket who have themselves what means I'm stating that though it has been planned as such and it has been delegated to them, but they have also volunteered for it also, right? So I'm just adding additional information. It is also planned to ensure the effective implementation of the modified work procedures based on the risk assessment among the workers, changing the way of working, right? The company has also planned to provide trainings, admin measure training, along with devising associated presentations and holding workshops for making the workers aware of the modified procedures based on risk assessment. It is also planned and expects the supervisors and managers to effectively implement and actively monitor the new arrangements, changing the way people are working through behavioral safety observations, admin measures. It is also planned to have the managers and supervisors within the organization conduct a safety tour of the workplace, something that's planned that once you come to the office, once you start working in the office, you need to do the safety tours, right? And who is going to do? Managers and supervisors. Point 22, the organization also plans to update its discipline procedures for ensuring strict implementation and enforcement of new workplace rules. Number 23, the organization also planned to consider the safety of its young workers, vulnerable people, right? As I always said, never forget your vulnerable people. If you find it in the scenario, always keep a focus on that also. So it's planned to consider the safety of young workers by considering changing the workplace behavioral attitude to the implementation of scheduled behavioral safety observations, admin measures. It has also planned to revise its policies for visitors to the office, which I could find, yes, visitors policies update, changing the way visitors will also come in the office. Plan to revise its policies for the control of contractors now, given that cleaning contractor person shall be working the same office area alongside the workers for more frequent and more extensive cleaning. So, of course, administrative measures. It is also planned that upon returning to the working from office, the regular workplace inspections shall continue. They stated that, look, we were closed, right? We were closed for the COVID. We are working at home. But now that we are coming back into the office, the administrative measure is what active monitoring that we will also continue doing that as such, right? What was stopped, now it will again resume back up and continue. So as you can see, for a 20-mark question, easily 26 points I have picked up. So once you have the evidence, writing the answers, it's almost like it becomes very easy as such, right? And then you have to just polish them, fine-tune them, and you don't have to write large essays as such, just one line, two lines in each answer. So easily you're going to, even you will come close to the word count, overall word count, or even if you exceed it by even 50, 60, 70 words as such, no harm. NEBOSH is not going to cut any marks from you as such, right? They're going to be more than happy that, oh, you have covered these points. So examiner has like no other choice. Well, 20 marks question, 26 points, different, everything is clear. None of the points are repeated as such. Most are based on the scenario. I have no other choice, but I have to give you those 20 marks, right? And in this kind of a case as such, yeah. So you're making it like absolutely, you're making like a kind of a watertight or a foolproof case for yourself, right? To present it to the examiner. All right, let's go ahead. Task number 5, influencing behavior to improve the performance. When workers eventually return to work in the office, right, with new control measures in the place, they will need to adopt to new behaviors. Now, NEBOSH is taking a little bit ahead into the future. That now when the people will come to the workplace, they will have all these new measures in place. And they will need, because the new measures are in place, now new behavior has to be there, because new behavior will enable that successful implementation and compliance to those procedures, right? So behavior will help in the successful implementation of the procedures. Now you think, NEBOSH is stating that you feel, you as a health and safety advisor, you think that the organization will be effective in positively influencing this behavior change. So justify. Now NEBOSH would either like the style of the questions is sometimes they can ask you to comment, sometimes they say give me arguments, sometimes they can say justify something. So here they have asked you to justify. So like give something, justify why you believe this, using examples from the scenario only to support your answer or to support your justification. So means again NEBOSH is stating that I'm giving a 15-mark question, application based question, but when you give me a justification, I want you to use only evidence or examples from the scenario. So means application based question, as simple as that. But now when you see, now what are the things that has influenced the behavior? Human factors, we learned in element 3, right? So human factors as such. But has NEBOSH told you that whether I want you to focus on organizational factor, job factor, individual factor? No, absolutely nothing. So that means 15 marks means they want you to focus on all the factors, all the things that will influence or positively influence upon the behavior. So you have to keep your mind open. Now, in these kind of questions, same thing, like when we saw the earlier question on communication, that when a communication question came, don't hunt for communication in a haphazard way. First make sections. Okay, verbal communication, written communication, graphical communication. Same way, when you get a generic question on factors, first break it up. Okay, what are the factors? Organizational factor, job factor, individual factor. Okay, let me make 3 compartments, make 3 columns, make 3 sections, or write it on 3 different pages as such. And then take each factor and then hunt for the evidence, right? So that we'll do it at that way. So it becomes easier. So you're going step by step systematically. So easily you'll be able to cross about 15 points as such, right? So a little bit of discipline is required. If you have the discipline and follow that kind of a strategy, you will save time. You'll be able to extract all the points as such, and you'll be able to present your answer in a nice way as that I'm first considered the organizational factors, then I consider the job factors, lastly came to the individual factors as such. Okay, coming on here. Right now from this task number 5, 6 and 7, I haven't written the answers as such, but I'm going to only discuss the points, right? So I'm just going to discuss the points as such. Okay, coming now 3 factors, organizational factor, right? Then I'm having the job factor, and then I'm having the individual factor as such. Okay, so coming to the first one, individual organizational factor. Now an organizational factor, now when you come to this factor, don't hunt for the factors first. First, write down your factors. What are the factors? So first I'll write down, okay, I have safety culture. Okay, anything to do with safety culture? Yes. Influences the behavior? Yes. Okay, safety culture is the fact. Then what is the next factor? Policy and procedures? Okay, write it down. Then what is the next factor? Senior management, commitment and leadership? Write it down. Then supervision? Okay, write it down. Consultation? Write it down. Worker participation can influence the behavior? Yes. Okay, write it down. Okay. Communication can positively influence the behavior? Yes. Write it down as such, right? Resources? Yeah. If I provide resources, influencing the behavior? Yes. And training? Yes. Influence the behavior as such. So first what I did, I brought the organizational factors. From organizational factors, I said, okay, let me list down all the factors first. Then once you've listed down all the factors, then take each factor within the organizational factor and then hunt for it. Where is it in the scenario? Right? So strategy, the strategy is important, right? So go disciplined and go a very systematic way. You'll be able to extract all the information out very, very quickly as such, right? Okay, coming on to the first one, safety culture. Where is the safety culture? That I'll say that no, the safety culture is evidential from the scenario. So I'll say that looking at the scenario, right? I can easily, it's like I can justify it, I can state it as such that there is a good safety culture in the organization. Because the management is actively involved into the management of health and safety. So it's evidential, and that will eventually positively influence the workers' behavior. So I can put that into words as such, right? Then coming to policies and procedures. So I found that, certification to an international recognized occupation health and safety management system standard means when I have a management system, definitely within the management system means because of having the system, I'm going to have a health and safety policy. Health and safety policy means I'm going to, within the policy, I'm going to have all these working procedures. So because I'm having all of them, and because I'm having this management system as such, the policy as such, definitely is going to influence upon the positive influence upon the workers' behavior. So that's another second point. Then coming to the third point, okay, senior management commitment and the leadership. So where could I find in the scenario as such, where can I find how it will influence the behavior? I found that the senior management is enforcing the following the government instructions for working at home. So definitely the workers will feel that my management is like, they are showing the commitment that by allowing us to work from home, plus they are following the government instructions. So definitely it will influence upon my behavior that yes, they are keeping us safe by allowing us to work from home. Second thing I found that how it will influence the behavior. You have to think, okay, what are the things that will influence the behavior? Positive influence. That management is concerned about my mental well-being during the new way of working. By how? By allowing me or giving me the opportunity to attend a 30-minute short computer-based team meeting at least on a weekly basis. So definitely, when I have to attend this weekly meeting as such, it's going to positively influence my behavior, though I'm working from home. Right? So definitely a positive influence. Then coming to the next one, supervision. Where could I find supervision? That I could find that, organization already conducts regular workplace inspections. So when somebody is going to do inspection as such, means what? That is a supervision. A supervisor is going to do the inspection, somebody at a managerial level. So definitely by doing this regular workplace inspections, once you come to like office working as such, definitely going to influence upon the workers' behavior, that they won't engage into any kind of unsafe acts or they won't create any kind of unsafe conditions as such. So you can see it is positively influencing. Next, consultation. Where could I find consultation? That yes, there was consultation in the evidence and scenario that there was short 30-minute computer-based team meetings, right? And they were being done on a weekly basis. It was helping the workers maintain social contact. So maintaining social contact definitely positively influence the workers' behavior, right? The outlook. And they're also a forum to raise concerns. So definitely influencing the workers' behavior. So this I'm showing examples that because you're having this, it's going to positively influence the workers' behavior. Next one, alternatively, one-to-one meetings can be arranged for those reluctant to discuss things during team meetings. Positively influencing behavior. I'm not happy coming for team meetings, but I have issues. But because the management has also thought that, let's have one-to-one meetings, so it is going to positively influence my behavior also. So I'm going to say, I'm happy with that also. Positively, it means keeping me happy. Then coming to the next factor, worker participation. So carrying out a specific virus risk assessment with input from workers' representatives. Means now workers will give all the suggestions, feedback, views, opinions, everything to workers' representative. Worker representative is also helping in the risk assessment, into control measures as such. So definitely my inputs, me as a worker, my inputs, my suggestions are going and being heard at the managerial level also. Definitely influencing the workers' behavior. Means positive influence. That means my suggestions, my views, my thoughts, my opinions are being considered as such, right? So influence, keeping me happy as such. Then coming to communication, where could I find that how use of communication, how it will influence behavior? Procedures and guidance and best practice of the home working, including workstation setup in a home working environment. When this guidance has been distributed to all workers. So when I receive this guidance by email, by team meetings, how to arrange your desktop or how to arrange your chair, what height it should be, how your hand should be, you should not be slouching. So when I receive this kind of guidance as such, influencing my workers' behavior, influencing my behavior in a positive way, definitely. Then I found that the organization making widespread use of technology to enable remote home working, influencing upon the behavior that I can work safely from home, same job I can do from home, so influencing upon the behavior, positive influence. Also, organizations making use of video conferencing facilities for meetings and clients means I'm able to do my work even from home, right? And by interacting with the clients and business meetings as such in a safe way, so positively influencing. Then coming to resources, where I could find that yes, even when I go back to work as such, right, I'm going to find that this cleaning, the company has extended the cleaning company contract to include more frequent and extensive cleaning of the office, positive influence. I also found the positive influence that now all the working procedures as such, they are all updated on the company intranet. Easy for me to find, easy for me to refer. If I have some doubt, I can go to it. Positive influence on the behavior. Also, there's going to be implementation of wearing personal protective equipment at work. So means management is caring for me, providing PPE, right? Fulfilling their compliance that they are required to provide PPE to me and enforcing that. So positive influence on the behavior. And also I could find that resources, posters, even posters are going to cost money, no? Posters are not going to come free of cost, right? So if the company is going to buy those posters, means it's resources. Right, so those resources will be which will be in all washrooms as such. So positive influence that whenever I go to the washroom, my eyes will fall on the poster, right? Positive influence, and then I'll wash my hands. So my behavior will be influenced as such. So you can see how the factor is influencing the behavior, right? Then the training that when I go back to work as such, or before I come to work as such, maybe there will be team-based meetings where there'll be training and talks and workshops. So there's an emphasis on training with associated presentations, device and workshops being held. So influencing my behavior positive way, right? So that is another thing. Then coming to now, so I've covered all of this with the organization factor. So I picked up all the points for writing my answers, right? So already, so 15 mark questions. So you can see all the points are picked up. Now coming to the job factor. Now in job factor, I know there are 4 job factors as such, but I could only find for environment and procedures related to the scenario as such, right? So environment. So before the meeting, what is related to the work environment? That before the meeting, the managing director asks you and the facilities manager to carry out a specific risk assessment with input from the workers. Means I'm doing something. Job factor is doing something that I want to keep my environment safe. If I keep my environment safe, the job factor is improving. Means my behavior is also improving. That means I know when I'm going to the workplace, that I'm going to have a safe working environment. So definitely when I'm having a safe working environment, positive influence on my behavior. Also, job factor, something to do with the job. What is the job factor? That procedure. When you're having a procedure, means it's something to do with the job. So when I'm having these written procedures and guidance or best practice for home working, including workstation setup in a home working environment. So when I'm having these procedures, and that is also going to help me to keep me safe as such, right? Proper ergonomics, right? Preventing musculoskeletal disease. So when I'm having good procedures in the place, positive influence upon my behavior. Right, so I could find only 2 job factors, and then coming last factor is what? Individual factor. Now individual factors, what is there? There are 4 factors: attitude, motivation, competence, and perception of risk. So attitude now. So now by having what is influencing the attitude? Discipline procedures. So the organization is having discipline procedures, updated the discipline procedures. So positive influence of the behavior. I know that other workers, at least I may be doing something safely, but the other person may not be doing something safely, but at least there's discipline procedures which is enforcing, being enforced for the rules and regulations, which will ultimately affect the attitude, change the attitude, and it will bring about a positive influence. Also, there is consultation and workers' involvement happening, which I could find, which is influencing upon the attitude, changing the people's attitude, so they can, if they have a negative attitude, if they feel that management is not asking me something or doing something, I feel it's not adequate, at least there's consultation and workers' involvement, which I could see and positively influencing on the behavior. And also I see that there's training and awareness. So even by providing training and awareness, it is helping me to change my behavioral attitude. So positive influence upon the behavior. Then in the individual factor, I found also motivation. That but when you're working from home, you're very comfortable. Oh, you're at home as such, fine. But when you want to go back to work, it's now after 1 year, I have to go back to work again. But you need to be motivated. You have to come back eventually. So now how the motivation, how it will positive, how will you use this factor for positive influence? So you will be influenced by when you're working at home, you're influenced by seeing the management commitment and leadership towards providing a safe workplace, providing safe systems of work to the procedures, provision of information and instruction and training by presentation of the workshop. So that is going to influence, that's going to motivate you, and that motivation will bring about a positive influence on your behavior. That when the office opens as such, I will be able to won't go with any kind of hesitation or any kind of thing. I'll go with some motivation as such. My attitude will be good to go back to work, positive influence as such. Then competence, right? Now competence is linked to training as such. So definitely by providing the training as such, you improve my competence. I'm being aware of how to manage a risk, right? How to manage a risk associated with mental ill health, how to manage a risk associated with musculoskeletal disorders, how to manage a risk associated with COVID when I go back to the workplace. So definitely competence is being increased. And lastly, coming to the individual factor, perception of risk. So when perception of risk is there, means I have to be able to perceive the risk. And if my perception of risk is high as such, my level of perception of risk is high, I'll be it will have a positive influence. So how will my perception of risk be increased? And perception of risk can be increased through training and along with associate presentations and workshops which I can see. So evidence from scenario. And also how is the perception of risk being increased? Because there is posters. There's graphical communication, which is detailing step-by-step approach to thoroughly washing hands and other hygiene procedures in the form of posters. So when I see these posters, when I see the safety signs, what is happening is increasing my perception of risk. It is making me aware that I need to do this. I need to wash my hands properly. I need to have good hygiene procedures. So when my perception of risk is high, I'm able to perceive the risk, put into place the correct measures as such, it is having a positive influence upon my behavior. So you could see how I've extracted the factors each of the factors, then I've seen which factor, where is the evidence in the scenario, and then from these points, then I can formulate my answers as such, right? So this is on task number 5. Coming on to task number 6. Now, task number 6, coming to this one. So there was only, you could see there was only one theoretical based question in the whole question paper. Usually it's only one. Sometimes it can be 10 marks, sometimes it can be 5 marks, sometimes it can be even 15 marks. So for this scenario as such, NEBOSH put the theoretical based question to 15 marks as such. So here, a theme is checking management system effectiveness through auditing. So point number 6, the managing director appears to be confused about audits, inspections, and those who carry them out. Advise the managing director on the differences between an audit and a workplace inspection. Theoretical based, nothing to do with extraction of information from scenario. So pure to do with subject matter. Plus part B, what is the benefit of using a third-party auditor rather than an internal worker for carrying out health and safety audits of the management system? So this is basically asking like, what are the advantages of using a third party, like advantages of external audits, right? So they've just reframed the question as such. Like in the syllabus, you saw that what is the advantage of using external auditing, right? Positives of it, merits of it as such. So the NEBOSH has just slightly changed the question and put it for 5 marks as such, right? So these are also scoring questions. Because you're not using so much of mental energy to extract information. So it definitely like you can put 10 marks into your pocket as such that way. So coming to part A. Part A is like now being asked what is the difference between the audit and what is the difference between an inspection. So here when you get this kind of differences as such, right, you have the choice either in one point to show difference in audit and an inspection, or you break up the thing and show one part as audits and write everything about the audits, and show one part of the answer as inspections, and then you can show a clear distinction. So it's up to you. Whatever approach you want, you can use it as such, right? So you're going to get the marks for it as such. But I'm just showing that some candidates have a different style to answer it, right? So I'm opening your mind to both the styles as such. Now coming to audit. So what do you do in an audit? Audit is basically a thorough examination of the health and safety management system. And what is the audit going to focus on? Audit may focus on the policy. Audit may focus on the arrangements in the workplace. Audit may focus on the safe systems of work, procedures and method statements that you're going to have. Audit is going to focus on the risk assessments like a virus risk assessment. Audit might focus on permit to work in case required as such. Audit may focus on the training records, what sort of training you provided with regard to managing this COVID risk. Audit may focus on maintenance records. Audit may focus on inspection reports like your workplace inspection reports, your behavioral safety inspection reports. And audit may also focus on any kind of statutory records in case you are required as such. Then the audit is also focusing on what that in an audit you are going to interview the workforce, right? That's fine. In the audit, you're also going to verify the standards are being met, like your legal standards, legal compliance standards. In the audit, you're also going to check the working area, right? The audit can, of course, you can say the audit can be a long process. It can be a lengthy process, sometimes running for a few days. And the audit is also, you can say that it's expensive, especially third-party audit, which costs money. Each day, the auditors in the workplace are going to charge you money. It's not coming free of cost, third-party fellow. And the audit, because for the audit, you need a high level of competence. Auditor needs to have that high level of competence as such. And normally the audit as such, right, you would normally performed as such by a trained or a competent auditor. I mean, somebody who's like, who's undergone training, some sort of certification. So you can use these points. Whereas coming to showing the differences in a workplace inspection, you can say that inspection, what is inspection? It's basically you're checking the workplace or a particular area. And in inspection, what are you doing basically? What are you focusing on? You're focusing on what is the hazards, and you're focusing that you're addressing them if you find something. You're also focusing that when you're going for an inspection, you're going out of the workplace, you're using a checklist as such, but you're looking at what is the existing control measures. And once you see some existing control measure, you're asking yourself, okay, is it being effectively used? Or is the control measure, is it malfunctioning? Is it not effectively performing as such? So you are also assessing those control measures. Then also, it is also helping you to determine and evaluate the compliance with existing company procedures and standards. So definitely, when you're going to the workplace, when you're using a checklist and doing a workplace safety inspection as such, you're evaluating what is the actual working condition with regard to what is a company requirement, what is a company expectation, what is a company procedure. What is being stated, is it being seen in practice? Means what is on paper, is it being reflected into practice as such, right? So you're determining that as such. Then in an inspection, what are you going to do? When you go into the workplace, you're going to check on documentation. Inspection, because you're using a tool like a checklist, it's quite a quick process. I'm reading, checking, quick process, right? The cost is low or almost negligible. Why? If it's done internally, inspection is done internally by your own staff. It is part of your work. It's part of your working process as such, part of your job responsibilities. Company is not going to pay you every Friday when you do a workplace inspection, every Saturday when you do a workplace inspection. Company is not spending any extra money as such. So no cost. Competence, it may require only basic competence. Like example, if you give somebody a checklist, he reads a checklist, check the safety sign, check the fire extinguisher, check this, check that. So no competence, read, check. Hardly much competence. And sometimes we are even saying that inspections can also be a part of the audit, right? It can be. And inspection, normally it's been done by an individual person, or it can even be done team-based as such. So I don't need high level of competence, low level of competence can be done by one person, or it can be even team-based as such. So these are the differences. Coming to part B, what is the benefits of using third-party auditors? So benefits, so a lot of benefits of using third-party auditors. So you can state about the third-party auditors independent of influence. He observes the working conditions and the performance as it is, right? He's very impartial. He's a very competent person, very widely experienced in auditing. He's not inhibited, or is not restricted in criticizing the members of the management, right? Normally, like if you're doing Intel audit, you won't write something about what the CEO has not done, right? But here, you're third party. I don't care who's the CEO. I don't care who's the MD. What I see, I report as such, right? And if the management has failed to do something, I can easily put in the report. Plus, my third party, because I'm a third party auditor, my recommendation carry more influence, more weightage as such. And because I'm going to so many workplaces, the excellent auditor, so I'm normally knowing what is the best industry practices. I know what is the latest legislation, what is the amendments in the legislation. So I'm usually up to date with that. And because I'm coming in the workplace, I'm also bringing a fresh pair of eyes. You might be seeing something on a day-to-day basis, but you're not realizing that it's not right. But because I'm coming fresh in the workplace, first time in the workplace, I'm very observant, right? I can see things what you have not been able to observe as such. Plus, I can be very critical of the management system. I may be able to find, even because of my experience, because of going to a wide variety of workplaces, I can be able to find solutions to problems which you have not been able to determine, or which you may have not learned as such. So these are the theoretical. So theoretical based questions also, easily you can pocket these marks. So 20 marks you could pocket from that evidence based question, 20 marks you could pocket from the based on the scenario question, 10 or 15, these 15 marks you can pocket from the theoretical based question. So easily you are come to a pass. So whatever added you're going to get is just going to help you at jump higher as such. That way. Coming to the last question for the day, task number 7 as such. So identifying data used to monitor health and safety performance. The organization needs to determine the effectiveness of its health and safety performance, right? So now we have to determine your effectiveness. How effective is the performance as such? So based on the activities actually planned in the scenario, means similar to what I can say based on the scenario only. What could you collect and use as health and safety performance indicators in the organization? So NEBOSH is stating that you have lots of performance indicators, but I don't want you to select generic as such. I want you to keep your mind focused onto certain activities in the scenario. Those activities can either be actual, means it is there in practice, or those activities can be planned that you will do it in the future, but I can use them as an indicator to assess my performance as such, right? So now we have to hunt, right? So you have to hunt for evidence as such. So picking up the evidence as such. Now first, you know all the performance indicators that you have studied in IGC. So list out all the performance indicators first, right? So this goes systematic. So don't hunt for it. First, list out all the performance indicators. So one is level of compliance, one is active monitoring, one is reactive monitoring, one is audit reports, one is consultations, one is targets, one is objectives, one is best practice developments, one is contractor performance. So these are I know these are my indicators. But now I have to, NEBOSH has stated that based on the activities, either that activity is planned or either the activity is actual. So using that, referring to this and the indicators, match them together, right? Pick up based on the scenario as such. So let's go up and see what are those what are those things that I can use as performance safety indicators. So level of compliance. Now, when I want to comply, again you have to think a little conceptually. When I want to talk of compliance, one is legal compliance, means something to external legal compliance. One also have to think about organizational compliance, because I'm making so many in the evidence in the scenario I found that I'm making this rule, this procedure, this instruction, this thing as such. That means I have to comply not only externally, I also have to comply on the other hand internally also with all these requirements. So I systematically thought, okay, let's break it up into two things so I can have more points that way as such, right? So coming to legal compliance. Where can I find legal? Where can I use it as an indicator that whether I'm following current government instructions or working at home? Am I complying with that indicator? Whether I'm complying to the guidance on controlling of the spread, any kind of guidance. One is instructions that you have to comply. One is guidance. You may do it or you may not do it also. But even that is an indicator that am I following the guidance or am I not following the guidance, right? Same thing, also carrying out specific virus assessment, legal compliance. Am I following the how often I'm updating it? How many risk assessments I have as such? So I can even use that as an indicator. Also, I'm using that indicator of my reporting requirements as a performance. Am I reporting any kind of incidents that have happened in the workplace to government authorities? Also, my visitors and control of contractors, right? Whether I'm keeping them safe, whether they are following enforcement and all this kind of thing. So I can use that as a performance safety. It's an activity control of the contractors. It is being planned as such, right? Because you could see based on the activities planned or actual. So now I'm enforcing a stricter, updating the policy for visitors and contractors. So it's something that I'm planned as such. So I've picked up that activity as a evidence. That way. Coming ahead, now I've covered the legal side. Now I'm coming to the organization requirements. Now, organization requirements, where do I need to comply as such? Where I can use it as a performance indicator. Am I complying with detailed step-by-step hand sanitation? Am I complying with hand sanitary procedures? Am I complying with social distancing instructions on that, right? Am I maintaining the social distancing? Am I having procedures for PPE as such, right? Are the people actually wearing the PPE? When I go for a workplace inspection as such, and when I see that behavioral safety inspections, are the people wearing PPE or not? So I can use that as a performance indicator. How many people? So I can even think about using safety sampling. But if I'm having 200 people in the office as such, right? I can't check on all the 200 people as such. But at least when I do the results of safety sampling, I can use a point of safety sampling that out of 200 workers, this Saturday when I did an inspection, or today when I picked up 10 workers randomly. Out of the 10, 9 were wearing the mask, 1 was not wearing the mask. So I can say I can use the results of safety sampling for checking that whether people are wearing the PPE as such. So I can use that also, right? Also checking on performance indicator on discipline procedures. How many workers, how many violations are there? How many disciplinary actions have been imposed onto the people, right? Especially with regard to vulnerable people, I can think about that also. Then coming to the findings of active monitoring. And who's going to do active monitoring? Supervisors and managers. So I'm seeing, okay, are they being effectively implemented? What's the level of compliance? How many compliances? How many non-compliances? Number of them, right? Whether they're actively monitoring them. So how many compliances with behavioral safety observations? What are the findings of safety tools? Using them as a performance indicator. How many findings on safety tools? How many good things? How many bad things? Then coming to also findings of active monitoring, I can talk about workplace safety inspections. What are the number of non-compliances found? Use them as a performance indicator. Then from active monitoring, I'm just going step by step to reactive monitoring. Where could I find reactive monitoring? Okay, when I open the office, that means activities that are going to happen as such. So I'm going to use that for how many work-related incidents, how many near misses, accidents, how many people falling ill, whatever, any kind of property damage, any possible investigations from the enforcement agency, any kind of enforcement action. Maybe suddenly the enforcement agency comes to the workplace and says, oh, you're not following this kind of guidance. I can use that as a performance indicator. Any number of civil claims on the workers, people falling absent and not coming to the workplace, right? Maybe affected like COVID and affected as such. Sickness monitoring data, use them as a performance indicator. Mental health reports, how many people reporting that, no, I'm having mental health issues. So evidence from scenario based on the events as such, so mental well-being. Also, what I could find audit reports that in the organization that I can even use the findings of the audit reports as a performance indicator. That how many findings, how many major non-conformities, how many minor non-conformities, how many kind of observations, all that stuff. So I can use that as a performance indicator. Then coming to consultation. That where I can use that, use this thing of consultation as a performance indicator. How many kind of meetings am I having on a weekly basis? Am I fulfilling? If I planned so many meetings, am I actually doing those meetings? So I can use that as a performance indicator. How many one-to-one meetings I planned and how many I did actually? How many risk assessments I made with workers' input and how much is actually? What the findings of risk assessment, have I shared with them or have I not shared with them? Right? How many are aware? How many are not aware? As such. Similarly, coming to targets and objectives, whether I met my targets, whether I met my objectives or not met them as such. And where I can use that indicator through training. that the training is going to help me to achieve my target. So how much training did I plan? How much did I actually give out as such? How many presentations I planned? How many I gave out? How many workshops I held? And how many was planned as such? So I can use that as a performance indicator to measure performance. Also, what are the best practice developments? Because in the when you're reviewing the health and safety performance, you will also think that, oh, what are the best practice? Because I found that in the scenario, there's procedures and guidance are best practice for home working, including workstation setup and a home working environment. Also, I could use that, as a performance indicator, that how other organizations are managing their control measures with regard to virus management, how I'm doing benchmarking, right? And also seeing the latest government advice, so I can use that, whether I'm implementing that. So, in this month, 3 best practice advice or 3 government advices have come to me. Have I actually followed it or have I not followed it? So that I can use as a performance indicator. And lastly, in this scenario, what did I find? There was contractors. So when I'm going to hire the contractors, I also will assess their performance, right? So that is also going to be, it's an activity that I'm planned as such. So when I could find the evidence that I'm going to extend the cleaning company contract to include more frequent and extensive cleaning. Now, when the contractors are going to do the cleaning as such, I'm going to use active monitoring methods to see whether the cleaning is effective or not effective. Whether if I've told them to do three times a day cleaning, are they actually doing 3 times a day cleaning or not? So I can use that as a performance indicator also, right? So based on the activities planned and actual as such. So when I've extracted all this information, so many points I've got, right? I could have written on 10 or 12 or 15 points as such easily, right? So based on activities, what I could collect means all these things I could collect and what I could use as performance indicators in the organization. So any 10 points, I could have written 10, 15 points as such. Easily all these indicators are there. Right, so with this, I have come to an end. I've explained, I've shown you several, for the first 4 questions, I've shown you answers as such. I've shown you the points as such. I've discussed, I've shown you the strategy. And I've also shown you that, if you write your answers neatly in point form, it's nice. You can also, when you're reviewing the answers, when you're coming almost to the, 22 hours have passed and you're almost coming for submission, next day you sleep, you wake up fresh, then you again review the answer paper. At least you can review and see, okay, 20 marks, I have 25 points, all the points are there. Have I missed anything out? Anything after sleep, after the overnight sleep, maybe something new has come up when I read the scenario again with a fresh mind, so it helps you as such. Okay. All right. So with this, thank you very much. I have come to an end of this webinar. So I want to thank you very much for your time, for spending with me through this session. So thank you very much on my part to you, right, for coming for this webinar.